Chapter 38:20. Now that the 10 great demon kings, Queen Flame is dead, and Snow Queen and the other 5 have a good impression of us, only Theta Wong is left. Old Qin, how do you plan to deal with them next? Madman looked at Qin Feiyang with a despicable expression and asked. I haven't thought about it yet. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Why don't we continue to blow up the furnace? The madman smiled. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This method obviously couldn't be used anymore. After all, they weren't stupid. Moreover, Snow Queen and the others had repeatedly told them that they could do it again and again, but not repeatedly and repeatedly. Anyway, if I just give them the pills, I won't be willing to do it. The madman snorted coldly. The pill furnace method definitely can't be used again. However, I didn't say that I have to refine pills for them now. Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. It wouldn't be too late to give them the pills before leaving the Heaven Bell Divine Treasury. When the madman heard this, a smirk appeared on his face, but suddenly he seemed to have noticed something. He raised his head and looked past the crowd, looking at a certain place in the mountains outside the city. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Look, what is it doing there sneakily? The madman was puzzled. Qin Feiyang looked over in puzzlement. He saw a purple gold skeleton squatting on a small hill in the distance. Its cowering appearance was rather comical. It's it. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and said with a smile, I was just looking for it. This was the purple gold skeleton that came to him yesterday to refine the undead barrier-breaking pill. Come here. The madman shouted at the purple gold skeleton. Hearing this, the purple gold skeleton glanced at the Chaos Royal City and ran over carefully. Look at how nervous you are. No one wants to kill you. What are you afraid of? The madman was speechless. I'm afraid of those demon kings. The purple gold skeleton laughed dryly and asked, Are you sure that those demon kings won't attack us again? It's not that I want to criticize you, but with your courage, how did you evolve into a purple gold skeleton? Didn't you see? Even the sovereign divine weapons of the devil kings are here to help you transcend the tribulation. How could they possibly harm you? Madman was speechless. Ha! The purple gold skeleton smiled awkwardly. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the Ice Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons. It just so happened that he had helped one of the dead spirits successfully transcend the tribulation. Hence, he looked at the line of dead spirits waiting to transcend the tribulation and smiled. Sorry I cut the line. I'm fine. The undead were all very amiable. Qin Feiyang looked at the purple gold skeleton and said with a smile, Go. Thank you. The purple gold skeleton smiled gratefully and immediately ran to the opposite side of the Ice Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons. It took out the undead spirit breakthrough pill and began to absorb its energy. Not only Qin Feiyang and the others, but even the undead who had condensed their physical bodies were also looking forward to it. If even these skeletons could use the undead barrier-breaking pill to get rid of their undead bodies, then the future of the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure would definitely undergo a tremendous change. In just a short while, the purple gold skeleton absorbed all the energy of the undead barrier-breaking pill. The skeleton did not have a flesh and blood body, so the changes in its body were even more obvious. Everyone present could clearly see that the undead energy in the purple gold skeleton's bones was rapidly being purified by the energy of the undead barrier-breaking pill. However, this didn't prove anything, because the function of the undead barrier-breaking pill itself was to purify the undead energy. The most important thing was, it all depended on the changes after the purple gold skeleton had transcended the tribulation. Boom. Not long after, the tribulation clouds rolled over, and the heavenly tribulation descended. Only when he was transcending the tribulation did he realize how terrifying the heavenly tribulation was. The purple gold skeleton trembled at once. How could he successfully transcend the tribulation? Don't panic. We are here. The Ice Phoenix shouted. Looking at the 10 sovereign divine weapons, the purple gold skeleton breathed a sigh of relief. The process of transcending the tribulation went smoothly. 99 heavenly tribulations were all blocked by the 10 sovereign divine weapons. A golden auspicious light descended and drowned the purple gold skeleton. Qin Feiyang and the others were paying close attention to the changes of the purple gold skeleton, only to see that under the golden auspicious light, the purple gold skeleton's bones were also disintegrating little by little. The process was very slow, and the purple gold skeleton didn't make any sound of pain during the whole process, as if it had fallen into a peaceful sleep. At the last moment, the purple gold skeleton completely dissipated, leaving only 2 clusters of undead souls in its eye sockets. These 2 undead souls, like 2 clusters of flames, approached each other while being purified by the golden auspicious light. Because the undead souls themselves were gradually condensed from the undead energy, the undead energy contained in them was more powerful than the undead energy contained in the bones and flesh. More than 10 breaths later, when the undead energy of the 2 undead souls was completely purified by the golden auspicious light, they converged and merged with each other. At that moment, a complete divine soul appeared. Then, the change that everyone had been looking forward to finally appeared. The purple gold skeleton's bones began to be reshaped little by little. When the entire skeleton was reshaped, the whole body emitted a dazzling purple gold divine light. Each divine bone was like a precious jade, without the slightest flaw. It was also at this moment the auspicious clouds in the sky dispersed, and the auspicious light that drowned the purple gold skeleton also merged into the bones of the purple gold skeleton like a tide. That's it. Madman was stunned. Only the skeleton was reshaped, but not the flesh and blood? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. Was this considered a failure? No. If one observed carefully, they would find that at this time, there was no undead energy on the purple gold skeleton. Except for the fact that it was still a skeleton, there were no other characteristics of the undead. Brother Qin, the purple gold skeleton was also a little panicked. It had already transcended the tribulation. Why didn't it create a flesh and blood body? Come down. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The purple gold skeleton quickly landed opposite Qin Feiyang and Madman. The undead who had been waiting in line to transcend the tribulation also began to transcend the tribulation in an orderly manner. Beside the city wall, Qin Feiyang released his divine sense, enveloping the purple gold skeleton. He found that there was indeed no undead energy on the purple gold skeleton. If it weren't for this purple gold skeleton, no one would be able to tell that it was an undead. However, in any case, it didn't create a flesh and blood body. Was this a success or a failure? Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang found that the soul of the purple gold skeleton was floating in the center of the skull, where the sea of consciousness was located. Although it didn't have a flesh and blood body, and although he couldn't see the sea of consciousness now, the soul had returned to the place where the sea of consciousness was. Did it mean that the purple gold skeleton was half successful? As for the other half, as long as the purple gold skeleton mastered the ultimate profound, it could naturally condense a flesh and blood body and become a real human? And in the purple gold skeleton's eye sockets, although there was no undead soul, there were 2 purple gold divine lights, just like 2 eyes. It could be said that, now, except for the fact that it didn't have a flesh and blood body, the purple gold skeleton was already a real person. Looking at the purple gold skeleton that was getting more and more anxious, Qin Feiyang comforted it. Don't worry, we need to slowly verify this kind of unknown situation. But, the purple gold skeleton wanted to say something again. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, I know you are afraid of failure, but from your current situation, you are basically developing in a good direction. Okay, I'll listen to you. The purple gold skeleton nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, Then let me ask you, have you comprehended the epitome of the law now? No. The purple gold skeleton shook its head, and then said, But in the past, I have integrated the epitome of the law of thunder, and I have almost comprehended it. Almost? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes. I believe it won't be long before I can comprehend the ultimate profound of the law of thunder. To be honest, I shouldn't have come to you in a hurry. If I had waited until I comprehended the ultimate profound of the law of thunder, and condensed a flesh and blood body, this situation wouldn't have happened at all. The purple gold skeleton was also a little regretful. Look at you, you are starting to be anxious again. Don't panic. I will discuss with the Chaos Royal City, and see if I can let you enter the city. In my castle, there is a time of 5,000 years. As long as you enter the castle for closed-door training, you will naturally comprehend the ultimate profound faster. Qin Feiyang smiled. Really? The purple gold skeleton was surprised. But this has to be approved by the Chaos Royal City before you can enter the castle. Qin Feiyang nodded. Quickly asked. The purple gold skeleton was a little impatient. For an undead like it that hadn't comprehended the ultimate profound, a time array of 5,000 years in a day was also a rare opportunity. Qin Feiyang turned around and glanced at the Chaos Royal City. Only this once. But before Qin Feiyang could speak, the voice of the Chaos Royal City sounded in his mind. Thank you, Senior. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and quickly thanked him. Looking back at the Chaos Royal City, he smiled and said, "Come in." The Chaos Royal City has agreed? The purple gold skeleton was surprised. Qin Feiyang nodded. Why didn't I hear it? The purple gold skeleton was suspicious. Just come in when I ask you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Madman's face was black. Okay. The purple gold skeleton nodded repeatedly and carefully stepped on the city wall. Looking at this scene, the undead queuing outside the city couldn't help but look envious. The Chaos Royal City had existed for so many years, but other than Qin Feiyang's group and the various demon kings, the purple gold skeleton was the first undead to step into the Chaos Royal City. For the undead of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, it was a great honor to be able to step into the Chaos Royal City. After stepping on the city wall, the purple gold skeleton saw that the Chaos Royal City didn't reprimand it, couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Then it became excited. It really didn't expect to be able to step into the Chaos Royal City in its lifetime. Although it was just standing on the city wall and didn't really enter the city, it was still something that other undead couldn't reach. When it comprehended the ultimate profound, it could really get rid of its undead body. In the future, it could also show off in front of its children that it had entered the Chaos Royal City. There are cultivation rooms inside. You can choose anyone. Good luck. Qin Feiyang looked at the purple gold skeleton encouragingly. Thank you. The purple gold skeleton was very grateful and quickly entered the ancient castle. It secretly swore that it must cherish this rare opportunity. Chapter 38-21. Half a year passed. The primal Chaos Royal City had always been a harmonious scene. No matter how many undead came, they maintained a good order and did not make any noise. This made Snow White Queen and the others and the primal Chaos Royal City very satisfied. They were afraid that Qin Feiyang and the others would turn this place into a vegetable market. But in the sky above a certain mountain, the atmosphere was extremely heavy. Bloodthirsty Demon King, Feng Tian Demon King, and Black Flame Demon King scanned the surrounding mountains and rivers, their faces filled with anger. It had been half a year, and they had not even found a single extreme Yang Thunder Fire. Normally, they did not even need to look for it personally. With a casual order, countless undead would bring the extreme Yang Thunder Fire to them. But it was different now. Not only them, all the undead in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure wanted the extreme Yang Thunder Fire. Although the undead were usually submissive to the Demon Kings, in the face of the temptation of the undead barrier-breaking pill, who would care about the Demon King? As long as they did not bump into him. Even if he had extra extreme Yang Thunder Fire, he would not give it to him. Even if he bumped into him, he would hide it. Unless it was a last resort, he would definitely not take it out. So, the three Demon Kings searched for so long, but they did not even see a shadow of the extreme Yang Thunder Fire. What angered them the most was Qin Feiyang. Originally, they did not need to suffer so much. They could even be the first people besides the primal Chaos Divine King to get rid of their undead bodies. But because of Qin Feiyang's targeting, they had to run around like the plague. Whether it was undead or skeletons, they would run away when they saw them. To them, it was undoubtedly a great humiliation. Especially Bloodthirsty Demon King. Feng Tian Demon King and Black Flame Demon King were still fine. Although they had been tricked twice by Qin Feiyang, at least they were fine. But his body had been destroyed by the primal Chaos Royal City, and had not been reconstructed. Thinking of this, he went crazy with hatred. Feng Tian Demon King could not bear this humiliation. He looked at Black Flame Demon King and roared. Are we really going to continue searching like this? I don't want to. But Qin Feiyang said that we are not allowed to snatch the undead's herbs. What can I do? Black Flame Devil King said in a deep voice. Are we really not going to snatch just because he said no? When did you become so obedient? What right does he have to order us around? Demon King Feng Tian roared. But only he can refine the undead barrier-breaking pill. If we continue to offend him, do you think we can successfully obtain the undead barrier-breaking pill? Besides, these undead all have mouths. Won't they run to Qin Feiyang and complain? The Black Flame Demon King was also enraged. Go and find trouble with whoever you're upset with. What's the point of yelling at me? If you're just afraid that these undead will complain, it's actually very easy to deal with. You can just kill them to silence them. Bloodthirsty Demon King's eyes flashed with bloody light. The Black Flame Devil King fell silent. If he could do it cleanly and not be seen by other undead, it would be a good idea to silence them. All right. Why don't we hide our auras and hide? Right now, many undead spirits are on their way to the Chaos Royal City. As long as we restrain our auras and don't let them discover us, they won't be able to escape. In the end, the Black Flame Demon King still listened to Demon King Feng Tian's suggestion, because he really didn't want to continue searching aimlessly like this. And if they didn't restrain their auras and carefully hid, when the undead sensed their auras, they would definitely immediately avoid them. Because their current situation had basically spread throughout the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, and everyone knew that they were looking for the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire. Who would be stupid enough to take the initiative to come to them? At the same time, for the three of them, retracting their auras and hiding in the mountains below was also a great humiliation. Who were they? The Demon King of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Apart from the Chaos Divine King and the Chaos Royal City, they were the strongest existence. But now they had actually fallen to such a point where they had to hide like a mouse to meet the undead, and snatch the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire. This was simply trampling on their dignity. In the blink of an eye, 7 days later, finally, a person flew over. This was a white-robed youth with a tall figure and a jade-like face, exuding an ethereal and otherworldly aura. Beside him, there was also a sovereign divine weapon. This was a khaki-colored battle shield, like a hard rock, dazzling divine light. The youth and the sovereign divine weapon did not notice that the three demon kings were hiding in the dark, flying over while chatting about something. He's here. In the dark. Black Flame Demon King and Feng Tian Demon King were shocked, and raised their heads to look at the white-robed youth. Bloodthirsty Demon King was rebuilding his physical body. Hearing this, he hurriedly opened his eyes and looked at the white-robed youth. Is he so arrogant? He actually brought a sovereign divine weapon and swaggered through the streets. When the three of them saw the battle shield, they couldn't help but be stunned. But when their gazes landed on the white-robed youth again, there was a trace of doubt in their eyes. This person didn't seem to have any undead aura on him? Could it be? This person had already gone to the Chaos Royal City to exchange for the undead barrier-breaking pill, and become a real human? If that was the case, then this person should no longer have the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire on him. However, they still didn't want to give up, and held on to the hope of getting lucky. Whoosh! Without hesitation, the three of them soared into the sky like lightning and stood in front of the white-robed youth. The white-robed youth looked at the three demon kings who suddenly ran out, and was slightly stunned. The battle shield was also a little stunned. They actually ran out to block their way? Feng Tian Demon King looked at the white-robed youth proudly and asked, "Do you have the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire?" Extreme Yang Thunder Fire? The white-robed youth was stunned and looked at the three of them. His expression became strange as he asked, "Recently, the undead of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure have been looking for the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire everywhere. Now that you've stopped me, are you planning to snatch the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire from me?" "So you have the Extreme Yang Thunder Fire?" Feng Tian Demon King asked. He was rather excited. "Yes, I do. But why should I give it to you?" The white-robed youth chuckled. "What?" The three demon kings were stunned. He actually dared to speak to them with such an attitude and tone? Did he not know their identities? Don't block the way. The white-robed youth walked forward, pushed the three of them away, and left without looking back. The three demon kings looked at each other. He directly ignored their existence? When did the dignified demon kings become so inconspicuous? Stop! Bloodthirsty demon king was furious as he turned to look at the white-robed youth and shouted. The white-robed youth raised his eyebrows and stopped. He turned to look at bloodthirsty demon king and said with a faint smile, "Did I offend you? If so, I apologize to you." "You don't know us?" Black Flame Demon King frowned. "What do you mean?" The white-robed youth looked at the three of them suspiciously and asked, "Are you very famous?" The corners of the three demon kings' mouths twitched. He really didn't know them? The three demon kings of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure actually didn't know them? He was too ignorant. Crazy. The white-robed youth shook his head and turned to leave. "You called us crazy?" The three demon kings were furious. A terrifying aura rushed out of Black Flame Demon King and Feng Tian Demon King's body and roared at the white-robed youth. "You're courting death." Battle Shield, who was following the white-robed youth, was enraged. His sovereign aura swept through the world like a volcano. "You're the ones courting death." Black Flame Demon King snorted coldly and waved his hand. The Black Flame Demon Castle charged out of his body. The sovereign aura roared in all directions and blasted at Battle Shield. The white-robed youth felt the sovereign aura and turned to look at the Black Flame Demon Castle. His eyes flashed. Clang. The two sovereign divine weapons clashed. The white-robed youth's battle shield shattered on the spot. So strong. The shattered battle shield returned to the white-robed youth's side, his heart filled with fear. What kind of sovereign divine weapon was this? How could it injure him so severely? "You still dare to be arrogant?" Black Flame Demon King waved his hand and the demon castle floated in the air. The terrifying sovereign aura pressed down on the white-robed youth and battle shield. The white-robed youth looked at the Demon King, and then at Theta Wong and the others. He smiled and said, "It seems that I have to get to know you all again." "You can still smile?" The three Demon Kings frowned. Why did it look so similar to Qin Feiyang's face? The white-robed youth smiled and said, "To be able to possess a mid-level sovereign divine weapon, you must be one of the 10 Demon Kings under the Divine King of Primal Chaos. At least you have some knowledge." Bloodthirsty Demon King sneered. "Really?" The white-robed youth was stunned. The corners of his lips curled up and he said, "Then may I know your names?" "Why are you asking so many questions? Hand over the extreme young lightning fire immediately, and we can consider leaving your corpse intact." Flattery Demon King said impatiently. "Hand over the extreme young lightning fire, and you still want to kill us?" The white-robed youth was stunned. "Do you have a choice?" Flattery Demon King looked at him with disdain. "You guys are really unreasonable." The white-robed youth shook his head and sighed. "Cut the crap. Hurry up." Bloodthirsty Demon King raised his eyebrows. Why was there so much nonsense? The white-robed youth waved his hand, and extreme young lightning fire appeared one after another. In the end, there were more than a dozen of them. So many? The three Demon Kings were stunned. This was completely beyond their imagination. "I didn't lie to you, did I? I do have the extreme young lightning fire." The white-robed youth smiled and put the dozen extreme young lightning fire back into the yin and yang ring. "What do you mean?" The three Demon Kings were furious. They thought that the white-robed youth was giving them the extreme young lightning fire, and they thought that the white-robed youth was tactful. However, they never thought that the white-robed youth would take it out to prove that he did have the extreme young lightning fire. The white-robed youth smiled and said, "Tell me your names first. After I know your specific identity, I can consider giving you a extreme young lightning fire." "What?" The three Demon Kings were stunned. They seriously wondered if they had heard wrongly. Giving them the extreme young lightning fire needed to consider? Moreover, after knowing that they were Demon Kings, the white-robed youth wasn't nervous at all, and was fearless. What was going on? When did such an arrogant undead appear in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure? "You're not going to say it? Then I won't accompany you. You can slowly find it yourself." The white-robed youth smiled faintly. Before the three Demon Kings could react, He turned around and left with the broken shield. Chapter 38:22. Damn it, you're not putting us in your eyes at all. Bloodthirsty Demon King could no longer control the killing intent in his heart. They did not dare to touch Qin Feiyang because of the restriction of the Blood Oath, the Primal Chaos Divine King and the Primal Chaos Royal City. But what did he have? A mere ant dared to be so arrogant in front of the 3 Demon Kings? You want to die? Fine. I'll grant you your wish. Clang. Accompanied by an earth-shaking explosion, a wave of blood surged out. This was a blood-colored palace. With the appearance of this palace, the world seemed to be dyed in blood, and a murderous aura enveloped the entire area. The white-robed youth raised his eyebrows again. Was there no end to this? It's useless even if you kneel down and beg for mercy now. Die for me. Bloodthirsty Demon King roared. The blood-colored hall was filled with killing intent as it charged toward the white-robed youth. Beg for mercy? The white-robed youth smiled. So what if you're a demon king from the Sky Bell Divine Treasure? Warshield said in disdain. Strange. Black Flame Demon King looked at the white-robed youth and Warshield and couldn't help but frown. What's wrong? Flattery Demon King looked at him suspiciously when he heard this. Black Flame Demon King said, Why do I feel like they're not from the Sky Bell Divine Treasure? They're not from the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Flattery Demon King was shocked. If they weren't from the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, they must be from the outside world. However, why didn't Qin Feiyang mention it before? Could it be? The two seemed to have thought of something as they looked at each other. Their eyes flashed at the same time. If this person was really from the outside world, he must be Qin Feiyang's opponent, because Qin Feiyang didn't mention this person at all. But even if they had such a guess, they didn't stop Bloodthirsty Demon King, because they wanted to see how strong this person was. Could he pose a threat to Qin Feiyang? Boom. The blood-colored hall charged forward aggressively. The white-robed youth's expression didn't change as he looked at Warshield and said with a smile, Earth Dragon Shield, go and recuperate first. Yes. The Earth Dragon Shield responded respectfully and disappeared into the body of the white-clothed young man. Earth Dragon Shield. As soon as these 3 words were spoken, the identity of the young man in white was also revealed. This was because the Earth Dragon Shield was the sovereign weapon of the dragons. And this white-clothed youth, without a doubt, was the son of the Ice Dragon, Long Chun. After the Earth Dragon Shield disappeared, Long Chun raised his head to look at the bloodthirsty Demon King and said indifferently, A mid-level Dominator divine weapon won't be able to kill me. Heavenly God Sword, come out. As his voice fell, a terrifying aura suddenly surged out of his body. Following closely, a battle sword flew out. This was his sovereign divine weapon, the God Sword. The other half seemed to be condensed from ice, and the cold current was bone-piercing. The other half seemed to be made of milky white gems, sparkling and emitting a holy aura. This sovereign weapon. The moment they saw the heavenly God Sword, Demon King Black Flame and Demon King Black Flame's pupils shrank. Even the furious bloodthirsty Demon King couldn't help but shudder. Clang! The heavenly God Sword attacked, its sharp edge tearing the sky and splitting the earth. Caught off guard, the Blood Palace King was blasted away on the spot, leaving a sword mark on his body. What? It can actually hurt my body? Could it be that this sovereign divine weapon is also? The Blood Palace King was shocked. The demon castle was the same. Only a sovereign divine weapon of the same level could hurt them. In other words, this heavenly God Sword, like them, was also an ultimate sovereign divine weapon. How was this possible? Other than them, there were no other mid-level sovereign divine weapons in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. The Blood Palace King and the Demon Castle also realized that the human in front of them might be the same as Qin Feiyang, from the Sky Cloud Realm. Who are you looking down on? Do you know who is standing in front of you? The heavenly God Sword opened its mouth. Its words were full of disdain for the 3 Demon Kings, the Blood Palace King, and the Demon Castle. Demon King Black Flame looked at the heavenly God Sword and asked, Who is he? You don't have the right to know. You only need to be clear about one thing. Even if it's the Primal Chaos Divine King above you, if he dares to provoke us, only death awaits him. The heavenly God Sword smiled proudly. What? The three demon kings looked at each other. Even the primal chaos divine king had no choice but to die? Bullshit. How powerful was the divine king? She wouldn't put a mere mid-level sovereign divine weapon in her eyes. Not to mention, beside the divine king, there was a chaos imperial city that was even more powerful than the mid-level sovereign divine weapon. However, regardless of whether it was a bluff or not, the person in front of them could definitely pose a threat to Qin Feiyang. The two hurriedly walked to the side of the bloodthirsty demon king and secretly said, "Stop first." "What's wrong? Are you really scared by them?" The bloodthirsty demon king raised his eyebrows. "What kind of joke is this? So what if the heavenly god sword is a mid-level sovereign divine weapon? Don't forget, we have 3 mid-level sovereign divine weapons. With our 3 mid-level sovereign divine weapons, how could we be scared by a brat?" Demon King Feng Tian transmitted his voice. There was still a trace of disdain in his words, because his sovereign divine weapon had not been revealed yet. If they were to really fight, the 3 sovereign divine weapons of the demon castle, coupled with his and the Black Flame Demon King's strength, wouldn't they be easily crushed? The Black Flame Demon King sized up Long Chun and asked, "Little brother, are you from the outside world? I finally saw it. Your reaction is too slow." Long Chun smiled faintly. The bloodthirsty demon king didn't understand and asked in surprise, "Isn't he an undead?" "He's not an undead." The Black Flame Demon King shook his head. If it was in the past, seeing that the other party didn't have an undead aura, he would definitely dare to immediately assert that the other party was an outsider. But now, there were already many undead that had taken the undead barrier-breaking pill and successfully passed the tribulation, becoming a real human. It was also because of this that the 3 demon kings had mistakenly thought that Long Chun was also an undead. An outsider. The bloodthirsty demon king sized up Long Chun, and instantly understood the meaning of the Black Flame Demon King and Feng Tian Demon King. With a wave of his hand, the blood-red palace broke through the air and landed above his head. The Black Flame Demon King also recalled the demon castle. "Didn't you want to kill us? Why did you suddenly stop?" The Sky God Sword sneered. Long Chun looked at the 3 demon kings with a thoughtful look. "It's all a misunderstanding." A smile appeared on the Black Flame Demon King's rough face. The Sky God Sword was about to ridicule when Long Chun raised his hand to stop it. He looked at the 3 demon kings and smiled. "The 3 of you should have suffered a lot in the hands of Qin Feiyang during this period of time in the Chaos Royal City." Ah! When the 3 heard Long Chun's words, their faces were immediately filled with surprise. How did this person know? "Are you wondering how I know?" Long Chun asked with a smile. "Yes." The 3 nodded instinctively. "First of all, you are looking for the extreme Yang Thunderfire. As the 3 demon kings of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, not only did you personally come out to look for the extreme Yang Thunderfire, but you also hid your aura and hid here to rob people. What does this mean? The undead of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure are all hiding from you. You can only hide your aura and wait for the undead to come to you. Moreover, the news of the undead barrier-breaking pill has already spread in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Logically speaking, since you were the first to know about the undead barrier-breaking pill, even if you came out to look for the extreme Yang Thunderfire, you should have found it long ago. But after so long, you are still looking for the extreme Yang Thunderfire. And look at this little friend." Long Chun looked at the bloodthirsty demon king and smiled faintly. "Your physical body was destroyed, and with your strength, it is impossible for it to be caused by the undead." "Little friend." The bloodthirsty demon king's face darkened and said angrily, "Although I look very young in terms of age, I can be your ancestor." "Be my ancestor?" Long Chun was stunned and shook his head with a smile. "You really can't do this. Just my father's age is estimated to be at least a few dozen times older than you." "What?" The bloodthirsty demon king was stunned. A few dozen times older than him? Or at least, who dared to say such big words? "I can't help it if you don't believe me." Long Chun shrugged and looked at the bloodthirsty demon king and continued, "I know Qin Feiyang's strength. He is not strong enough to destroy your physical body. As for the blood ancestor, Madman Mo, and the others, they do not have this ability. So if I am not wrong, your physical body must have been destroyed by the divine king of primal chaos, or the royal city of primal chaos. The three demon kings looked at each other. Why did it feel like they were seeing it with their own eyes? This was too amazing. Feng Tian Demon King frowned and said, "Are you related to Qin Feiyang?" "No. But about Qin Feiyang refining pills in the royal city of primal chaos, the undead along the way are all talking about it. Combined with the discussions of these undead and your current situation, it is not difficult to deduce the result. You have followed the divine king of primal chaos for so many years. The divine king of primal chaos will not easily attack you unless there is a special reason. And during this period, only Qin Feiyang and the others were in the royal city of primal chaos. So this matter must have something to do with Qin Feiyang and the others. I think that Qin Feiyang and the others must have used some method to gain the recognition of the divine king of primal chaos. In other words, in the eyes of the divine king of primal chaos, your status is now lower than theirs. As for the undead barrier breaking pill, obviously, they are deliberately making things difficult for you. And it should be more than once." Long Chen smiled faintly. Too accurate. The three of them were shocked. To be able to deduce that they had been making things difficult for them more than once. How terrifying did one's mind have to be? One had to know. When they first made things difficult for them, Qin Feiyang and the others hadn't moved to the city wall yet, so apart from the divine king of primal chaos, the royal city of primal chaos and the other demon kings, no one knew about it. However, you deserve it. Why did you have to provoke Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist? Back then, my people used the power of the entire clan, but they still couldn't defeat them. Instead, they were exterminated by them. At that time, they weren't even at the imperishable realm. You can imagine how terrifying their methods are. You may admire my mind now, but let me tell you, compared to them, my mind is nothing. Long Chen shook his head. The three of them were shocked. Indeed. They really admired Long Chen's mind. But they didn't expect that even this person would feel inferior in front of Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist. It seemed that they had never seen what kind of people Qin Feiyang and the mad scientists were. They also didn't realize how terrifying the two of them were. Wait. You just said that Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist have a grudge against you. Demon King Black Flame was surprised. That's right. If it wasn't for my father appearing in time, even my mother, sister, and I would have died in their hands. To be exact, I would have died in their hands at that time. It was my father who saved me. Long Chen nodded. The three demon kings looked at each other. Wasn't this an opportunity? What was bigger than the grudge of extermination? None. This was the biggest grudge. It was irreconcilable. Either you die or I die. This person must hate Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist. So if they asked this person for help, he would definitely not refuse. Chapter 38-23. With this thought in mind, Black Flame Demon Theta Wang looked at Long Chen with a smile on his face. Long Chen's eyes flickered, as if he had already seen through the thoughts of the three. May I know brother's name? Feng Tian Demon King asked with a smile. Long Chen. Long Chen said. Feng Tian Demon King smiled. So it's brother Long Chen, I've heard a lot about you. Long Chen was stunned. This was too hypocritical. If it was said that he was a little famous in the Sky Cloud realm, he would still believe it. After all, putting aside the identity of the son of the Ice Dragon, he was also the son of the dragons. Of course. Not many people knew about the identity of the son of the Ice Dragon. But in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, it was as if he was just a nobody. A trace of resentment crawled up in Feng Tian Demon King's eyes as he said in a deep voice. To tell you the truth, brother Long Chen, as you guessed, we fell to this point because of Qin Feiyang and the madman. In fact, they are indeed capable. No matter where they go, they can become the focus of attention. Long Chen shook his head. Focus? We don't agree with this. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. If you really want to establish a foothold in a place, you have to be as low-key as brother Long Chen. Feng Tian Demon King sneered. No, I'm also very high-profile. Long Chen waved his hand. Would someone who kept a low profile run around with a sovereign-level weapon? Obviously not. Black Flame Demon King's eyes flashed with killing intent. Brother Longchen, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Why don't we join forces to get rid of Qin Feiyang and the madman? That's right. If we join forces, we will definitely be able to kill them. At that time, you will have avenged your clan. Bloodthirsty Demon King nodded. Join forces? Longchen was slightly taken aback, seemingly surprised by the proposal of the three. But was it really unexpected? No. When the three of them revealed their killing intent towards Qin Feiyang and the madman, all of this was within his expectations. Furthermore, if he guessed correctly, the three people in front of him should be the targets of Qin Feiyang's trap. The three Demon Kings were so naive that they were adorable. One had to know that even Qin Feiyang and the madman were afraid of Longchen. However, the three of them had overestimated themselves and came to make use of him. Weren't they just looking for trouble? The Black Flame Demon King looked at Longchen's surprised expression and said with a smile, Brother Longchen, you must be thinking that with our strength, we can easily kill them. Why don't we do it ourselves? Yes. Longchen nodded. Because we were forced to swear a blood oath. With Brother Longchen's understanding of Qin Feiyang and the others, you should know about the blood oath, right? The Black Flame Devil King sighed. I see. Longchen suddenly understood. Feng Tian Demon King's eyes turned as he looked at Longchen and said, May I ask Brother Longchen, can the blood oath really destroy the sovereign divine weapon? Yes. Longchen nodded. The three of them looked at each other, their eyes filled with fear. Originally, they were still hoping for a fluke. Although the blood oath could kill the undead, it might not be able to destroy the sovereign divine weapon. After all, the sovereign divine weapon in their hands were all mid-level sovereign divine weapons, which were much stronger than the undead. But now, hearing Longchen's reply, they no longer dared to underestimate him. Longchen pondered for a moment and nodded. It's not impossible to join forces, but Qin Feiyang and the madman are both in the Chaos Imperial City. Unless you can lure them out, with my strength, it's impossible to kill them under the nose of the Divine King and the Chaos Imperial City. Regarding this, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Brother Longchen. The Black Flame Devil King sighed. What do you mean? Longchen was suspicious. The Black Flame Devil King said. They also made a blood oath that before the Sky Bell Divine Treasure ends, they cannot leave the Chaos Imperial City. They can't leave the Chaos Imperial City? Longchen was surprised. He really didn't know about this. Because when the ancient castle contacted the Heavenly God Sword, it only asked them to help and didn't say anything. Yes, this is their agreement with the Divine King. The Divine King was afraid that they would plunder the Sky Bell Divine Treasure and destroy the balance of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, so he trapped them in the Chaos Imperial City. But I didn't expect. I don't know what method they used, but they actually obtained the approval of the Divine King, and openly made a deal with the undead of our Sky Bell Divine Treasure in the Chaos Imperial City. I won't hide it from Brother Longchen. During this period of time, they used the undead barrier-breaking pill to obtain a large number of law miniatures from the undead of our Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Brother Longchen, you're a smart person. You should know that if they continue to trade with the undead like this, how terrifying will it become in the future? The Black Flame Devil King said in a deep voice. I didn't expect that they would use this method to collect the law miniatures of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. This is much more convenient than finding it by themselves. Longchen mumbled. They're indeed treacherous. In front of them, these Demon Kings are probably just like little kids. They'll be toyed around with. The Heavenly God Sword thought. Although these Devil Kings are strong, they're still lacking when compared to Qin Feiyang and the others. Longchen transmitted his voice. Then what should we do now? Should we continue to cooperate with Qin Feiyang, or destroy Qin Feiyang's plan? Although the three Devil Kings want to use us, they're not wrong about one thing. If we let Qin Feiyang continue to trade with the undead like this, who knows how many law miniatures he can collect in the end? This kind of thing, whether it's for you personally or for the entire dragons, is not a good thing. The Heavenly God Sword was quite worried. Although Qin Feiyang didn't have many subordinates around him, Each of them was loyal to Qin Feiyang. And the reason why Qin Feiyang was frantically collecting the law miniatures was certainly for these people. If these people could obtain the law miniatures and comprehend the ultimate meaning, in the future, no one in the Sky Cloud realm would be able to shake Qin Feiyang's position. Long Chen pondered for a while and suddenly smiled in relief. He transmitted his voice. Let's talk about the future later. Besides, even if we can get the law miniatures, we may not be able to comprehend the ultimate meaning. You're too calm. If it were the Dragon King, he would definitely be anxious. The heavenly god sword was speechless. Our future enemy is not Qin Feiyang. I don't need to say this, you should know. Moreover, a man must keep his word. Since we've already promised Qin Feiyang, we naturally have to do it. Long Chen secretly smiled. Future enemy, the heavenly god sword murmured and asked, is the divine kingdom really that strong? I don't know, but I heard from my father that this divine kingdom is not simple. You know my father's strength. If even he said it's not simple, then it definitely can't be underestimated. Long Chen transmitted his voice. All right, you decide. The heavenly god sword didn't say anything else. Long Chen looked up at the three devil kings and frowned. I know Qin Feiyang too well. Not to mention a blood oath. Even if it's just a verbal promise, they won't break it. If they don't leave the Chaos Royal City, how can I deal with him? Regarding this, we already have an idea in mind. Devil King Black Flame said. I'd like to hear the details. Long Chen smiled. He has a few companions with him. Devil King Black Flame waved his hand, and the phantoms of White-Eyed Wolf, Princess Huofeng, Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and Hell Godhound appeared. Long Chen looked at their phantoms and asked suspiciously, you want to make a move on them? Smart. These people are now training in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Although we can't do it ourselves, we can help you find their whereabouts. Once we find their whereabouts, I believe that with your strength it'll be easy to kill them. At that time, you might even be able to use these people to force Qin Feiyang and the others to leave the Chaos Royal City. Once they lose their minds in anger and leave the Chaos Royal City, we won't even need to do anything. The Blood Oath's heavenly tribulation can directly kill them. Devil King Black Flame sneered. Good plan. Long Chen gave him a thumbs up. Devil King Black Flame's expression had a hint of pride as he asked, how about it? Do you want to work with us? Sure. Long Chen nodded and smiled. But what benefits can I get? Benefits. Devil King Black Flame was stunned and frowned. Killing them means you can avenge your people. Isn't this a good thing for you? Of course it's a good thing. But today, you guys came to me for help. Naturally, you should give me a corresponding reward. Long Chen smiled. Reward? The three of them raised their eyebrows. Tell me the truth. Although I have a grudge against them, I don't want to be enemies with them at all because they are too difficult to deal with. So if there isn't a reward that moves me, I will definitely not do this. You guys can consider it carefully. There's no need to force yourself. Long Chen shook his head. Wasn't this Qin Feiyang's plan? He wanted to take the opportunity to make the three Devil Kings suffer a double loss. At that time, they wouldn't even have a place to complain. When the three of them heard this, they couldn't help but have a trace of anger in their eyes. To be honest, they were helping this person to avenge his people. Not only did he not thank them, he even asked them for a reward. The most excessive thing was bearing the grudge of his people's extermination. He actually said that he didn't want to be enemies with Qin Feiyang and the others. This was too weak. He was simply an idiot. What do you guys think? Devil King Black Flame transmitted his voice. Devil King Feng Tian pondered for a while and secretly said, this person is our only hope now. We might as well rely on him for now. I agree too. At most, after we get rid of Qin Feiyang and the others, we can get rid of him. Devil King Bloodthirsty transmitted his voice. Okay. Devil King Black Flame nodded, looked up at Long Chen and said, we will give you the epitome of two strongest laws. Long Chen was stunned. Sword God was also a little confused. Epitome of two strongest laws. Were they trying to make him a beggar? Not to mention anything else, just talking about the years they spent in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. plundering the universe rings and treasure vaults of the undead. They didn't lack these two epitome of laws. Is it not enough? Devil King Black Flame frowned. Isn't this obvious? I have Sword God in hand. It's just two epitome of laws. Can't I find it myself? Longchen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 38-24. He finally understood why these three demon kings would fall into such a sorry state. There was only one reason. Their brains weren't flexible. Their eyesight wasn't good, because those with a little bit of eyesight wouldn't give out 2 law miniatures as a reward. However, the three demon kings didn't realize this point. Instead, they thought that Longchen was a little greedy. But now that they had a request, they had no other choice. Tell us what you need. We will try our best to satisfy you. Demon King Feng Tian said. Longchen thought for a while and smiled. Then let's take the law inheritance. What? Law inheritance? The three's expressions froze. After all, this is a very risky thing. Moreover, if I can't kill them in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, they will definitely come to take revenge on me after leaving the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. At that time, it doesn't matter if you are in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, but I'm afraid I won't be at peace in the Sky Cloud Realm. Longchen smiled. The three demon kings frowned. All right, I'll give you an inheritance. In the end, the three compromised and took out a law of light inheritance. No. You misunderstood me. What I want is not an ordinary law, but an ultimate law. Longchen waved his hand. What? The three were furious. He actually wanted the inheritance of an ultimate law. Longchen smiled and said, as demon kings, don't tell me that you don't even have an ultimate law inheritance. The three's faces were gloomy. Of course. I won't let you give it to me for free. As far as I know, Qin Feiyang and Madman still have many rivals in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. If we can join forces with them, the success rate will be higher. Longchen smiled faintly. How many? The three were taken aback and quickly asked. About 40 to 50 people. Although there aren't many people, they all have sovereign weapons in their hands. In total, there should be about 20 of them. Longchen said. He was naturally talking about the land of buried gods and the Sky Cloud Sea. This was also the matter that Qin Feiyang asked him to help with. If there were benefits, of course everyone would share them. The land of buried gods aside, the various beast emperors of the heavenly cloud sea had always taken care of Qin Feiyang and the others. Especially the Sea Lion Emperor and the other beast emperors. Back then, when he challenged the first prince of the dragons to a battle on White Crane Island, he was besieged by many powerful enemies. If the 8 great beast emperors hadn't lent the sovereign divine weapon to the madman, he would have been in deep trouble. A drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. This was Qin Feiyang's style. So many? The three demon kings were astonished and hurriedly asked, You know where they are now? Of course. Longchen nodded and said, Celestial Sword, contact the castle and ask Qin Feiyang where the land of buried gods and the sea of heavenly clouds are. Also, tell him about the situation here. All right. The heavenly god sword secretly replied. All right. Very good. The three demon kings were extremely excited. They didn't expect that Qin Feiyang and the madman would have so many powerful enemies. Feng Tian Demon King looked at Black Flame Demon King and said, Why don't you give him your strongest law inheritance? How can I do that? I'm going to fuse with this inheritance myself. Black Flame Demon King hurriedly said. There's still a long way to go. We can slowly find it in the future. At most, the two of us will help you find it when the time comes. After Feng Tian Demon King finished speaking, he gave Bloodthirsty Demon King a look. Bloodthirsty Demon King understood and began to secretly persuade Black Flame Demon King. Black Flame Demon King pondered for a moment, made up his mind, looked at Longchen and nodded. All right, I will give you the strongest law inheritance, but I also have a condition. Speak. Longchen smiled. As expected. If it was him, he wouldn't easily give the strongest law inheritance to the other party. Black Flame Demon King said. You must make a blood oath to kill Qin Feiyang and the others. Yes. Only by making a blood oath can we trust you enough. Feng Tian Demon King and Bloodthirsty Demon King also nodded. I don't dare to do that. After all, Qin Feiyang and the others are in the Chaos Royal City. You don't have the strength, let alone me. Long Chen shook his head. Black Flame Demon King frowned. If you don't dare to guarantee, then wouldn't we give you the inheritance for nothing? If you think so, then I can't help it. In short, I'm not 100% sure. If you want to be 100% sure, then go find someone else. But I can tell you responsibly that as long as Qin Feiyang and the others don't come out of the Chaos Royal City, not only me, no one dares to make a guarantee. Long Chen said indifferently. Black Flame Demon King couldn't help but frown again. Actually, you don't have to be so suspicious. Because even if I can't get rid of them in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, when I return to the Sky Cloud Realm, I will have to fight with them sooner or later. So, if you give me the inheritance now and let me increase my strength, the chances of winning against them will naturally be higher. This is equivalent to helping you vent your anger. Long Chen smiled slightly. The three looked at each other with a hesitant expression. At this time, the celestial sword transmitted. The castle has already told me the meeting point of the land of buried gods and the Sky Cloud Sea. And Qin Feiyang has also asked the White-Eyed Wolf and Princess Huafeng to go there in advance to make arrangements. Sure enough, all of this is within his calculations. Long Chen secretly smiled, raised his head to look at the three hesitant demon kings, and asked, "How about I take you to find other allies first, and you can think about it on the way?" Go now. The three demon kings were stunned and hesitated. What's wrong? Long Chen was puzzled. We haven't gotten the undead barrier breaking pill yet, so we don't want anything to happen halfway. How about you give us the extreme Yang Thunder Fire first, and we'll go with you after we get the undead barrier breaking pill, Demon King Feng Tian said. You still want the undead barrier breaking pill? Long Chen smiled. What's wrong? From what you said, Qin Feiyang doesn't intend to give us the pill. The three frowned. Since there is a blood oath, he will definitely give it to you sooner or later. But according to my understanding of Qin Feiyang, I estimate that he will only give it to you when he leaves the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, so even if I give you the extreme Yang Thunder Fire now, it will be useless. However, you can go back and prepare more law inheritances. Long Chen smiled. What do you mean? The three were suspicious. Didn't they already agree to give him the inheritance of the strongest law? Why did he ask them to prepare other law inheritances? Go find others for help. You can't go empty-handed. More or less, you still have to bring some greeting gifts. In other words, if they were to go to the land of buried gods and the Sky Cloud Sea for help, they would naturally have to give them some benefits. When the three heard this, they looked extremely angry. As the high and mighty demon kings, they had actually become the target of extortion by these ants, because it was obvious that these people treated them as their money bags. Chapter 38-25. You don't have to worry too much. Not everyone has to be given an inheritance. I reckon that you won't be able to hold on to so many inheritances. When you see them, you only need to give the leader an inheritance. As for the others, give each of them a law miniature. I believe that they will obediently listen to your commands. As for law miniature, you definitely don't lack it. Long Chen smiled. If that's the case, then it's not impossible. The three demon kings heaved a sigh of relief. There were a total of 30 to 40 people. To be honest, they really couldn't afford to give each of them an inheritance. This was because the law inheritance of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure was basically in the hands of the Primal Chaos Divine King. As demon kings, they could only pick up scraps. Even if they were lucky and found a law inheritance, they would first report it to the Divine King of Primal Chaos. After obtaining the Divine King's consent, they would dare to keep it in their hands. All right, bring us there now. The three demon kings secretly discussed for a moment before looking at Long Chen. Aren't we going back to get the law inheritance? Long Chen was stunned and asked suspiciously. No need. We have always carried our treasures with us and not in the Primal Chaos Royal City. Demon King Feng Tian waved his hand. Long Chen nodded in realization. This would save a lot of time. He turned to the celestial sword and said with a smile, "Let's go." Whoosh! The celestial sword immediately swept up the four of them and tore through the sky like lightning. Long Chen looked at the three beside him. An inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. He transmitted his voice. Contact the ancient castle again and ask Qin Feiyang if he wants to take the opportunity to get rid of these three demon kings. I personally think that there is still a chance to get rid of them. Primal Chaos Royal City. The heavenly tribulation above the city had never stopped. It was always shrouded by tribulation clouds. And now, the undead gathered outside the city had already reached 5,000 to 6,000. Everyone was looking forward to it. Looking at the undead who had successfully passed the tribulation, their faces were filled with envy. Cultivation room. Qin Feiyang was refining pills. Madman was beside him. However, it was not to help. It was because the heavenly god sword had contacted the ancient castle that it was called in by Qin Feiyang to discuss how to deal with the three demon kings. What do you think? Qin Feiyang finished refining a pill and turned to look at Frenzied Man, who was deep in thought. Is Long Chen really confident that he can get rid of the three great demon kings? Madman frowned. I don't know either. However, Long Chen, the land of buried gods, the heavenly cloud sea, the white-eyed wolf and Princess Huofeng. With over 40 sovereign weapons, it's not impossible to eliminate the three demon kings. But I'm worried about one thing. Qin Feiyang pondered, a trace of worry on his face. Are you worried about the Divine King of Chaos? Madman asked. That's right. After all, the three demon kings are the subordinates of the Divine King of Chaos. If they die outside, the Divine King of Chaos will definitely investigate to the end, and he might even personally take action. We don't know the strength of the Divine King of Chaos, but we have seen the strength of the royal city of chaos with our own eyes. Even the bloodthirsty demon king couldn't resist at all. Not to mention, there is also Snow Queen and the others. If we really anger the Divine King of Chaos, I'm afraid it will only harm Sea Lion King and the others. Qin Feiyang was worried. Makes sense. Although the Divine King of Chaos promised not to kill us, he did not promise not to kill Sea Lion King and the others. If we really anger her, the consequences will be unimaginable. Madman nodded, then frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang. Speaking of which, with Long Chen's brain, there is no reason for him to not think of this. But now he actually instigated us to kill the three demon kings. Is he deliberately tricking us? Tricking us? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He must have learned about our current situation from the three demon kings. Whether it is for public or private reasons, he probably doesn't want to see us crazily collecting law miniatures in the royal city of chaos. Madman frowned. Listening to what you said, it seems to make sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. In any case, we can't be careless. Especially when facing this guy. If we are not careful, we might be tricked by him. At that time, it will be too late to regret. Madman rubbed his forehead. He was clearly a potential enemy. And he was the most threatening enemy. If it was anyone else, they would have already eliminated them. But facing Long Chen, they could only use 4 words to describe their feelings. Helpless. Because Long Chen's background was too terrifying. Wanting to get rid of him was harder than ascending to the heavens. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and looked at Madman. So what you mean is that we should not do anything now to avoid unnecessary trouble. That's right. It wasn't easy for us to get the recognition and acquiescence of the Divine King of Chaos. If all our previous efforts were to be wasted because of the death of the 3 demon kings, it wouldn't be worth it. There is also the most important point. If Long Chen reveals that we are actually in cahoots with the Sea Lion Emperor, then will the Divine King of Chaos still be so polite to us? Definitely not. At that time, I'm afraid he will directly imprison us, let alone continue to trade with the undead and collect law miniatures. Madman pursed his lips. Makes sense. At the moment, we really can't destroy our relationship with the Divine King of Chaos. Even if we want to kill the 3 demon kings, we have to do it openly and let the Divine King of Chaos have nothing to say. Qin Feiyang nodded and decisively let the castle restore the heavenly sword. At the same time, He let the castle contact the white-eyed wolf to not be impulsive when they meet the three demon kings. In the sky above the mountains, the heavenly sword led Long Chen's group of 4 on their way and secretly said, "Qin Feiyang rejected your proposal." "That's expected." Long Chen smiled faintly. "Listening to your tone, it seems that you really want Qin Feiyang to agree?" The heavenly sword was puzzled. "Of course I want to, because if the 3 demon kings really die outside, the divine king of chaos will definitely not sit back and do nothing. In the end, it will even affect the relationship between Qin Feiyang's group and the divine king of chaos. This way, they won't be able to continue trading with the undead in the royal city of chaos." Long Chen secretly said. "So that's how it is." The heavenly sword suddenly understood. "Unfortunately, they have already seen through my purpose." Long Chen shook his head. "I thought you really wanted to cooperate with them, but it turns out that you were looking for an opportunity to scheme against them." The heavenly sword despised. Cough cough. Long Chen coughed dryly. "What's wrong?" The 3 demon kings immediately looked at him suspiciously. "It's nothing. It's just that my throat is a little uncomfortable." Long Chen hurriedly waved his hand. The 3 demon kings did not suspect anything and turned their heads to look elsewhere, as if they were secretly discussing something. Can this also be called scheming? It can only be said to be a small matter to add some fun to a dull life. Long Chen transmitted his voice. The heavenly sword was stunned. This was actually just a small matter? It really widened its knowledge. Chapter 38:26. Sure enough. In this deceitful world, apart from the people around you, no one can be trusted. Just like this time, if Qin Feiyang and Madman didn't pay attention, they would definitely fall into Long Chen's trap. Time flew by. 2 years passed. On this day, inside the castle, suddenly, a terrifying aura emerged. Qin Feiyang was concentrating on refining pills, and with the sudden emergence of this aura, his furnace almost exploded. With great difficulty, he managed to control the violent aura in the furnace, and then frowned slightly. This is the aura of the law of thunder. Moreover, it seems to be breaking through the ultimate meaning. Because when Madman mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of thunder, the aura was exactly the same as this. But now, the people who were in seclusion in the castle were basically fusing with the ultimate meaning of the strongest law. So why would there be the aura of the law of thunder? Wait. There seems to be someone missing. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes revealed a trace of joy. Purple gold skeleton. That's right. The purple gold skeleton said at that time that it had fused with the miniature of the law of thunder, and it was about to comprehend the ultimate meaning. It seems that it should be the purple gold skeleton. 2 years outside. Inside the castle, more than 3 million years have passed. Although for people with their cultivation level, 3 million years was nothing, for the purple gold skeleton, it was quite long. Because compared to mastering the ultimate meaning, what he wanted to know more now was whether he could really get rid of his undead body. If he had to choose, he would rather use an ultimate meaning in exchange for the chance to be reborn. So at this moment, the purple gold skeleton was very excited and nervous. Qin Feiyang quickly finished refining the pill and hurriedly walked out of the cultivation room. He jumped to the 2nd floor and pushed open a stone door. He saw the purple gold skeleton sitting inside the cultivation room. Its entire body was curled up by the terrifying power of thunder. The purple gold skeleton also noticed the arrival of Qin Feiyang. But at this moment, he really wasn't in the mood to greet Qin Feiyang, and nervously paid attention to his own situation. What's going on? Madman also rushed in, looked at Qin Feiyang standing outside the door of the 2nd floor, and asked, "Come up and see for yourself." Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. The madman jumped up and landed beside Qin Feiyang. He looked at the purple gold skeletons inside, and a trace of expectation appeared in his eyes. Finally, flesh and blood slowly grew on the purple gold skeleton's bones. This change surprised Qin Feiyang and Madman. This was because after coming to the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure for so many years, this was their first time witnessing the scene of a skeleton condensing a corporeal body. Another few hundred breaths passed. The purple golden skeleton had already disappeared. At this moment, the person sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room was shockingly a young man. This was the original appearance of the purple gold skeleton. He was about 1.9 meters tall and had a skeletal body. He had short black hair and bronze skin. He was filled with explosive power. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and released their divine senses to check the young man's condition. The young man himself was also carefully examining it. About 10 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other again and couldn't help but have a trace of joy in their eyes. Because in the young man's body, they didn't find any undead aura, and there were no other abnormalities. He was completely a living person. The young man himself couldn't help but tremble. Was this true? Even if the truth was in front of him, he didn't dare to believe it. Congratulations. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The young man finally looked up at Qin Feiyang and Madman and asked with difficulty, "Have I really gotten rid of my undead body and reincarnated as a human?" Right now, he was only afraid that Qin Feiyang and the other man would spit out the word no. "And you are already a real human, no longer an undead." Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this, the young man couldn't help but shed tears. He was so excited that he didn't know what to do. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and smiled. They had long experienced this feeling. Especially Qin Feiyang. Because in the past he had personally seen Fire Lotus walk step by step. The pain and despair that Fire Lotus faced was still vivid in his mind. So, the two didn't disturb the young man's state, and let him be alone for a while before silently retreating to the hall. Qin Feiyang brewed a pot of tea and said with a smile, "Although they are both undead, the undead of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure is still somewhat different from the Fire Lotus." Madman nodded. After the Fire Lotus successfully passed the tribulation, it directly condensed a body of flesh and blood. But the skeletons of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, whether or not the undead aura was removed in advance, had to comprehend the ultimate meaning in order to condense a body of flesh and blood. This should be the rule restriction of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Rules? Madman frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Old Qin, who do you think is behind the Sky Bell Divine Treasure?" "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "In the past, we didn't have much knowledge and didn't think too much about this kind of place with special rules. We even thought that these rules existed purely because of heaven and earth. But it's different now. A place with special rules like this must be related to someone or something," Madman said. Qin Feiyang nodded. "So I can't help but wonder, who is the master behind the Sky Bell Divine Treasure? Whether it's a person or some other divine object, why would he set up such a rule?" Madman frowned. "Who knows? It's hard to understand the thoughts of ordinary big shots. Don't care about anything else, as long as it's not targeted at us. In any case, we are just passers-by to the Sky Bell Divine Treasure." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. It was impossible to have any results just by thinking about these things, so there was no need to find trouble for himself. "That's true." Madman nodded. As passers-by, no matter what secrets were hidden in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, it had nothing to do with them. They just needed to be themselves. Dada. At this time, accompanied by a series of footsteps, the young man finally walked out of the cultivation room. He looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman who were sitting in the hall below, his eyes filled with gratitude. Following that, the young man descended and arrived in front of Qin Feiyang and Madman. Madman smiled and said, "After being an undead for so many years, are you still not used to being a human?" The young man scratched his head and nodded with a smile, looking charmingly naive. "Slowly get used to it. After being an undead for so many years, you shouldn't have drunk tea. You're lucky today." Qin Feiyang poured a cup of tea and placed it on the opposite side of the tea table. He smiled and said, "This is a rare divine tea. I usually can't bear to drink it." "Divine tea?" The young man was stunned. He looked at the teacup and his eyes seemed to be a little blurred. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "It's true that I haven't drunk tea for a long time. I haven't tasted wine either. I really miss it." The young man shook his head, looked up at Qin Feiyang and Madman, and knelt on the ground with a plop. What are you doing? Qin Feiyang hurriedly put down the teacup and stepped forward to help the young man. The young man gently pushed Qin Feiyang away, looked at the two and said, I never thought that there would be a chance to be reborn. Until now, I still feel like I'm dreaming. Thank you, you are my reborn parents. Please be sure to accept my 3 kowtows. After saying that, he kowtowed 3 times in spite of Qin Feiyang's obstruction. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly, took the young man's arm, and sighed. It's a shame, because you don't have to mind. Although for you, this may be a business deal, for us undead, this is a great kindness. Besides, not only did you refine pills for us, but you also helped us cross the tribulation. It's only right to reward you. I believe that no undead in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure will blame you for this, and will only be grateful to you in their hearts. The robust young man said. His words were very sincere, causing Qin Feiyang and the young man to blush with shame. Cough cough. Madman coughed to conceal the embarrassment on his face, took out a jar of black tortoise divine wine, and said, This is also a divine wine, treat it as a gift to celebrate your rebirth. Thank you. The young man stepped forward and took the wine jar, then picked up the teacup on the table and drank it all in one gulp, nodding. It's really good tea. Qin Feiyang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Drinking tea like this, could one really taste good and bad? However, he really could understand this person's mood. Right now, whether it was divine wine or divine tea, it couldn't compare to the joy in his heart at this moment. We'll send you out. You have to cherish every day in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled. I know. I will definitely cherish it. The young man nodded heavily. If he still didn't know how to cherish it after being reborn, then there was really no medicine that could save him. When the 3 walked out of the ancient castle, everyone's eyes were cast over. Old Poison, Li Zhongxing, and Xiao Shui looked at the young man with surprise. Who was this? They didn't seem to have seen him before. Wait. He couldn't be that purple gold skeleton from back then, right? Everyone, do you still recognize him? Madman looked at the undead outside the city, pointed at the young man and laughed. Now there were more than 10,000 undead gathered outside the city. Most of them had already condensed flesh and blood, and only a small portion of them were still skeletons. These skeletons were actually just watching, because they had already heard that a purple gold skeleton had successfully transcended the tribulation, and was now in seclusion in the ancient castle. Hearing Madman's words, all the undead shook their heads. They had never seen him before. Madman said, He is the purple gold skeleton that absorbed the undead barrier-breaking pill 2 years ago, and successfully transcended the tribulation. What? It's him. The undead outside the city were stunned. Following that, countless divine scents surged towards the young man. There's no more undead aura. He succeeded. In other words, even for skeletons like us, the undead barrier-breaking pill is still useful. The happiest ones were of course those skeletons. In the past 2 years, all the skeletons that came here were looking forward to this good news every day. But at the same time, they were afraid that the news they were waiting for was bad. So, while looking forward to it, they were also filled with torment. Chapter 38:27. And now there was finally good news. How could he not be happy? Not excited? He could finally put down the huge stone that had been pressing on his heart. Sigh. Frenzy suddenly sighed. What? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Frenzy shook his head and said sadly, Looking at these smiling faces, I feel that we are too great. We are simply great men of a generation. Even I admire myself. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Looking at Frenzy's sad look, he thought that he was going to say something touching, but in the end, he changed the topic and became smug. Sure enough, one's nature was something that could never be changed. At the same time, seeing the skeletons outside the city burning with hope because of his transformation, the muscular young man's face was full of smiles. He turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and Xiaochen. Then he performed a cupped fist salute and said, Brothers, we will meet again. Qin Feiyang and Oldly nodded. Whoosh. The young man didn't say anything emotional. He nodded to Li Zhongxing and the other two and soared into the sky, leaving without looking back. Don't say that. Seeing them leave one by one in satisfaction, I really feel a sense of accomplishment. Qiao Shui smiled. Li Zhongxing and Old Poison nodded. As former undead, they naturally knew how these undead felt. The young man was relatively calm. Some of the undead couldn't help but cry after transcending the tribulation. For them, getting rid of their undead bodies wasn't just about being reborn as a human, but also relief and hope. After the purple gold skeleton's verification, the other skeletons no longer had any concerns, and went forward to trade with Qiao Shui and the other two. Business was even more popular than before. Moreover, as the news spread, more and more skeletons rushed over. All day long, the few of them were busy, but it was worth it. While doing good deeds, they could also obtain a large number of law miniatures. It was the best of both worlds. Not long after, Blood Ancestor and Li Feng both came out of seclusion. Without a doubt, their strongest laws had broken through one after another. However, this was all thanks to the souls of the undead that Snow Queen and the others gave them. In the beginning, they had thought that by relying on the souls of the dead that the Divine King of Primal Chaos had given them, they would be able to break through to the next level. However, it turned out that they had underestimated the amount of souls of the dead needed to break through to the next level. The souls of the dead that the Divine King of the Primal Chaos had given them had all been devoured. In the end, they were just a little short. The souls of the undead that Snow Queen and the others had gifted him just so happened to make up for this gap. Furthermore, their exit also brought Qin Feiyang a piece of good news. The Blood Ancestor knew how to refine pills. This was something that no one had expected. How could a demon like the Blood Ancestor have the patience to study pills? When he needed medicinal pills, it was more convenient to just snatch them. Therefore, at first, Qin Feiyang held a skeptical attitude. However, when the Blood Ancestor personally finished refining a pill, Qin Feiyang immediately felt ashamed to show his face. This was because the pills refined by the Blood Ancestor had 8 dragon-shaped pill qi. The quality of the pills was even higher than his. The most excessive thing was, the Blood Ancestor also said something. He hadn't refined for many years and his technique was rusty. It wasn't even 1/10 of his peak. Not even 1/10 of his peak? Then how many dragon-shaped pill qi could he refine at his peak? 9, 10. As expected, this was an old antique. None of them could be underestimated. Not to mention Qin Feiyang and the others, even Li Feng didn't know that the Blood Ancestor knew how to refine pills. Of course, there was nothing he could do about it. Once in the ancient world, the Blood Ancestor had been sealed by the Ice Dragon, and had always been in the form of a remnant soul. Moreover, with an existence like him, it was impossible for him to personally refine pills unless he had no other choice. But this time, he took the initiative to take on the hard work of refining pills. The reason was to let Qin Feiyang and Madman go into seclusion to fuse with the inheritance. Li Feng was also helping outside. If it was before, Qin Feiyang would definitely not be at ease with the Blood Ancestor. But now it was different. He trusted him unconditionally, so he taught him all the refining methods of the undead barrier-breaking pill, and went into seclusion with peace of mind. There was no need to talk about the Blood Ancestor's strength now. The Slaughter Law, the Death Law, and the Time Law were the 3 ultimate profound meanings. This kind of strength had already surpassed his peak. Because at his peak, he had only mastered 1 ultimate profound meaning of the strongest law. And now he had 3 ultimate profound meanings. Even though Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Lord were also growing, the Blood Ancestor's current strength was completely enough to compete with the 3 Dragon King. What made Qin Feiyang and Madman the most emotional was that Li Feng had actually mastered the ultimate profound meaning of the strongest law before them. To be honest, when they were in the ancient world, they never thought that Li Feng had the ability to keep up with their pace. Because although Li Feng's talent was good, it could only be considered average among the geniuses. They didn't expect that not only would he catch up with their pace, but he would also surpass them. Sometimes you had to believe in fate. Everyone had different encounters, and Li Feng's greatest fortune in his life was meeting the Blood Ancestor. Otherwise, even if Li Feng had agreed to cultivate with them, it would have been difficult for him to have today's achievements. Of course, whether it was Qin Feiyang or Frenzy, they didn't agree with Li Feng's rise. Fortunately, now that Li Feng had turned over a new leaf, he no longer needed to absorb the flesh and blood of living creatures. On the other side, a rolling mountain range was located on the ground. From afar, it looked like a giant dragon, exuding a majestic aura that shocked the soul. Somewhere in the mountain, dozens of people were sitting cross-legged on the ground. Among them, there were a few particularly familiar faces. One of them was the masked Dajura. As usual, he wore a mask. His dark eyes faintly carried a trace of bloodlight, looking extremely deep. Judging from his figure and skin, he should be a young man. However, his temperament and eyes were very calm. Next to the masked Dajura was a middle-aged man in black. This person was also very familiar. It was the person called the Divine Beast who had intercepted Qin Feiyang, and the others several times in the land of buried gods. The other was the Sea Lion Emperor. There was no need to say much about the Sea Lion Emperor. Qin Feiyang and the others had contact with him many times and were very respectful to him. As for the others, although they had seen them before entering the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, they weren't too familiar with them. It was worth mentioning. On a mountain peak not far away, there was a man and a woman snuggling together. They looked very intimate, but their faces were unfamiliar. Both of them looked young. The man had a head of black hair, and was about 1.7 meters tall. His appearance was extremely ordinary. It was no exaggeration to say that if he was placed in a crowd, no one would take a second look at him. The woman in his arms was also ordinary, with a mole on her chin. Other women all had beauty moles, but her mole was a bit too much. It was almost the size of a child's finger. "Sister Feng, do you like this kind of ordinary life?" The man spoke, his tone was full of doting. "Yes. This is the kind of life I yearn for." The woman nodded. Obviously, this man and woman were the White-Eyed Wolf and Princess Huafeng. But at this moment, they had changed their appearance and temperament. Even if Qin Feiyang and Frenzy were here, they might not be able to recognize them. "Is your life not good now? Open your mouth and open your mouth. Others can't wait to be envious." The White-Eyed Wolf smiled. "I told you that you're vulgar, but you don't believe me. What you see is just the surface. As the Princess Royal of the Fire Phoenix clan, my burden is no less than yours. Father is looking forward to me becoming the next patriarch of the Feng people. Lord Feng Ho also hopes that I can become the future pillar of the Feng people. But they don't know that their expectations will become a burden and pressure on me. More importantly, I have to deal with the Ice Phoenix clan. Take the matter of Bing Running as an example. If it were you, you would definitely kill her directly to prevent her from becoming a disaster. But I can't. I have to endure it. I have to consider the entire Feng people. Sometimes I really feel so tired. I want to let go of everything, find a place where no one is around, and live a carefree life. But there's no other way. Born in the Feng people, I have no right to escape." Princess Huafeng shook her head. "You've worked hard." The White-Eyed Wolf heard this and felt distressed. "You know that I've worked hard. Then you have to take good care of me in the future. Also, when we return to the Sky Cloud realm, you have to be polite to my father and the others. Don't always look so arrogant." Princess Huafeng said. "Do I? I'm such a low-key and humble person. How can it be?" The White-Eyed Wolf laughed. "You're low-key? You're humble? Forget it. Go and ask around. Who doesn't know your arrogant and despotic character?" Princess Huafeng's face was full of disdain. The White-Eyed Wolf bared his teeth and muttered to himself for a moment. Then he said in a low voice, if at that time your father and the Phoenix Empress oppose us being together, will you do this?" Princess Huafeng fell silent. The White-Eyed Wolf said anxiously, "Don't say that you're going to abandon me like this." "So what if I abandon you?" Princess Huafeng smiled proudly. "You dare?" The White-Eyed Wolf smiled coldly. "Yes, I dare. Are you going to kill me?" Princess Huafeng looked at the White-Eyed Wolf provocatively. The White-Eyed Wolf picked his nose and said coldly, "Of course I won't do anything to you. but I will kill my way to the phoenix nest and turn it into a river of blood." "You bastard!" When Princess Huofeng heard this, she angrily reached out her claws and fiercely pinched the white-eyed wolf's waist. Don't. I'm just joking. Even if you lend me 100 guts, I won't dare to do this." The white-eyed wolf quickly begged for mercy, tears of pain flowing down his face. Princess Huofeng proudly snorted and let go of her hand. She looked up at the mountains below and sighed. "If father and the others really oppose us, I don't know what to do. But we have to face it. After all, we're no longer children. Running away won't solve the problem. Don't worry. No matter what, I'll always stand behind you and be your strong shield." The white-eyed wolf hugged Princess Huofeng and smiled. "Thank you." Princess Huofeng was extremely touched. Then she looked up into the white-eyed wolf's eyes and said, "You have to promise me that no matter what happens in the future, you won't let go of my hand." The white-eyed wolf lowered his head and looked at Princess Huofeng. He grabbed Princess Huofeng's hand and couldn't help but slightly tighten his grip. He nodded and said, "I promise you." Seeing the white-eyed wolf's affirmative answer, Princess Huofeng's heart was as sweet as honey. But in the next moment, the atmosphere suddenly changed. The white-eyed wolf burst out laughing and said, "You look too too beautiful right now. I really can't bring myself to kiss you." "What did you say? You dislike me?" Princess Huofeng was instantly furious. No. How would I dare to dislike you?" The white-eyed wolf hurriedly waved his hand. "I think you despise me. Bastard, if you start to dislike me now, what will happen in the future? Besides, who made me disguise myself like this? I'm not done with you." On the mountain peak, miserable howls immediately sounded. Chapter 38:28. Hearing the movement on the mountain peak, Sea Lion King and the others opened their eyes and looked up. "What's the point of showing off in front of us all day long?" The masked Shura snorted in dissatisfaction. "If you can find one quickly, you won't have to be so envious of them." The middle-aged man in black smiled. "Ahem." The masked Shura choked and said with a dark face, "Uncle Long, what did you say first?" "Which I saw that I was envious of them." "Still stubborn. I saw it with all 3 eyes." The middle-aged man in black said. The masked Shura smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Women are troublesome. Why should I go and find trouble for myself? Isn't it comfortable to be alone?" "Then you have to think about us old fellows. We old guys don't have any children. The only people we can count on are you and Xiang. Look at the 2 of you. Which one of you is anxious?" "We've been worrying for nothing," an old man said. He looked old and wore a yellow robe. He stared at the masked Shura with dissatisfaction. "Then you should go and find Junior Brother. He's handsome and is more popular with women." The masked Shura waved his hand. The yellow-robed old man looked helpless. He looked up at the white-eyed wolf and Princess Huofeng and shook his head with a smile. "I really didn't expect the 2 of them to be together. Yeah. When I saw this wolf cub before, I always thought that he might be single for the rest of his life. Because with his personality, it's impossible for a woman to like him. But I didn't expect that he would come to us with a woman in such a short time. Moreover, it's the Princess Royal of the Fire Phoenix clan. If Feng Ho knows about this, she'll be so angry that she'll vomit blood." Sea Lion King shook his head. The saying that the world was unpredictable was not wrong at all. "Feng Ho." The middle-aged man in black shook his head and said with a smile, "I think not only will she vomit blood, but she'll probably lose half her life. Because as far as I know, this Princess Royal is deeply loved by Feng Ho. She may have the intention to let her inherit the position of the next Feng Ho." "So you're saying that the wolf cub still dug out her precious treasure this time?" The masked Azura was surprised. "It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she's my darling. After all, among the younger generation of Feng people, Princess Royal is the most outstanding one. As for the other princes and princesses, take Bing Running for example. She doesn't care about the big picture at all, let alone becoming Feng Ho's successor. According to my understanding, not only is the eldest princess talented, she has also awakened a terrifying fighting spirit. The middle-aged man in black said. A terrifying fighting soul? The masked Shura was stunned and said in surprise. Don't tell me it's one of the 10 strongest fighting souls. No. But her fighting soul might be the nemesis of the 10 strongest fighting souls. The black-clothed middle-aged man raised his head and looked at Princess Huofeng. His eyes sparkled. What? The nemesis of the 10 strongest fighting souls. The masked Azura was extremely shocked. The 10 strongest fighting souls actually had a nemesis. How come he had never heard of it before? Everything in the world can't escape one rule: mutual generation and restraint. If there's a strongest fighting soul, there must be something that restrains it. So the white-eyed wolf being able to capture this woman's heart is a good thing for us. The Sea Lion Emperor smiled slightly. The masked Azura became more and more confused as he listened. He looked at the Sea Lion Emperor and asked, Senior, what kind of fighting soul did she awaken? You will know in the future. The Sea Lion Emperor smiled. I really don't know what to say about you people of the older generation. You all like to keep people in suspense. The masked Azura said helplessly. If I tell you everything, then what's the challenge for the younger generation? The black-clothed middle-aged man stared at him. The masked Azura couldn't help but smile. Boom. At this moment, a terrifying aura came from afar. The group of people was shocked as they raised their heads and looked into the distance. They could faintly see a few figures moving towards them at lightning speed. Stop fooling around. At the same time, the white-eyed wolf also stopped Princess Huofeng and looked up. It seemed to be the aura of Long Chen's sovereign divine weapon. There's also the Black Flame Demon King. Princess Huofeng's eyes darkened. Are they finally here? The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed as he immediately looked at the Sea Lion Emperor and the others below and warned. Be careful, don't reveal any flaws. Everyone nodded and landed beside the white-eyed wolf and Princess Huofeng. The white-eyed wolf had already told them about Qin Feiyang's plan. They were also very supportive of this plan. How good was it to be able to obtain a divine weapon without much effort? Who wouldn't like it? And with the 3 Demon Kings' status in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, how could they have few treasures on them? Besides, if they were asked to take out some cheap things, even they would be embarrassed. Soon, those few figures descended on the top of the mountain. Sure enough, it was Long Chen, the Divine Sword, and the 3 Demon Kings. Everyone immediately sized up the 3 Demon Kings. These were the Demon Kings of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Their aura was indeed powerful, especially the sovereign divine weapons in the 3 Demon Kings' bodies. That terrifying aura directly brought a death threat to them. The 3 Demon Kings were also sizing them up. And they also sensed the aura of sovereign divine weapons like the Blood Dragon Blade in the masked Shura and the others. What Long Chen said was true. These people had a large number of sovereign divine weapons. However, they didn't sense the aura of sovereign divine weapons like the Fire Phoenix Sword. Because the Black Flame Demon King had seen the Fire Phoenix Sword and the Fire Phoenix Divine Jade, Princess Huofeng had them restrain their aura. The white-eyed wolf looked at the 3 Demon Kings and frowned at Long Chen. Long Chen, who are they? Why haven't I seen them before in the Sky Cloud realm? Long Chen landed opposite the white-eyed wolf and looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. Obviously, even he didn't recognize the original body of the white-eyed wolf. It's me, your brother wolf. The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. When Long Chen heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. It turned out to be this wolf cub. He was quite bold. He thought that even if the white-eyed wolf came, he would definitely hide, but he didn't expect that he would change his appearance and directly face the 3 Demon Kings. But thinking back, wasn't this wolf cub always like this? There was nothing he was afraid of. Introduce them. Long Chen beckoned to the 3 Demon Kings. The 3 Demon Kings landed beside Long Chen. Long Chen smiled. These 3's identities will give you a shock. They are the Heaven Bell Divine Treasures Devil Kings. They are the Bloodthirsty Devil King, Black Flame Devil King, and Celestial Demon King. Demon Kings. The eyes of the white-eyed wolf's group trembled. It looked like they were still pretending. It couldn't be said that after hearing the names of the 3 Demon Kings, they would still be indifferent. And Princess Huofeng was more familiar with the Black Flame Demon King than the others, because when the Black Flame Demon King went to find Qin Feiyang, she personally experienced it. If it weren't for the help of the 3 sovereign divine weapons, they would have died in the hands of the Black Flame Demon King. At the same time, looking at the reaction of the group of people, the 3 demon kings were very satisfied. After the white-eyed wolf came back to his senses, he immediately glared at Long Chun and said, "What do you mean? Why did you bring them here?" "Don't be nervous." Long Chun hurriedly comforted and smiled. "The 3 demon kings didn't come here with bad intentions." The white-eyed wolf and the others looked at each other, and the doubts in their eyes were even stronger. Long Chun said, "Actually, for everyone this is a good fortune." "Good fortune?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. "That's right." Long Chun nodded and asked, "I believe you have already heard about the situation of Qin Feiyang and the madman." "Yes. I heard that they are in the Chaos Royal City, and they are doing well." After the white-eyed wolf finished speaking, he looked at the 3 demon kings and asked, "Is this true?" "It's true." The 3 demon kings nodded. "These 2 damn things are really lucky." The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with killing intent. Princess Huofeng, Sea Lion Emperor, and the others also revealed a trace of hostility. Seeing this, the 3 demon kings couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile on their faces. It seemed that this group of people's hatred for Qin Feiyang and the others was not ordinary. Long Chun laughed. "The 3 demon kings came to find us because they want us to help them get rid of Qin Feiyang and the madman." "Get rid of them? Are you kidding? Not to mention that they are now in the Chaos Royal City, with their strength. We can't kill them just because we want to." The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "I know. But now don't we have the help of the 3 demon kings? I won't say much about what Qin Feiyang and the madman did in the Sky Cloud realm. Everyone knows it in their hearts. Now that we have such a good opportunity, don't you want to get rid of them?" Long Chun asked. "Yes. Even in my dreams," the white-eyed wolf said with a face full of resentment. "That's not right. Moreover, the 3 demon kings have prepared a greeting gift for everyone." Long Chun smiled. "Greeting gift?" Everyone looked at each other, and looked at the 3 demon kings suspiciously. The 3 demon kings looked at each other and smiled. With a wave of their hands, law miniatures suddenly appeared, and all of them were the strongest law miniatures. Looking at so many law miniatures, except for the white-eyed wolf and Princess Huofeng, everyone's eyes couldn't help but shine. Although they were all important figures in the Sky Cloud realm, and there were even reclusive old antiques who had mastered the ultimate profound, law miniatures, especially the strongest law miniatures, were like treasures. Because in the Sky Cloud realm, this thing could only be comprehended by oneself. Not to mention them. Even for Qin Feiyang and the others, when they first entered the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, seeing an ordinary law miniatures was like seeing a treasure. So, just because Qin Feiyang and the others now had a large number of law miniatures, they couldn't underestimate the value of law miniatures. For the people of the Sky Cloud realm, no matter what law miniatures, they had a fatal temptation. But the 3 demon kings looked at the reaction of the group of people, and couldn't help but be full of ridicule. A mere law miniatures actually made these people so surprised. Sure enough, they were a group of ants who had never seen the world and lived in a low-level civilization. Chapter 38-29. But at this moment, the white-eyed wolf looked at the 3 demon kings and sneered. "You want us to take such a big risk to kill Qin Feiyang with just a few dozen Dao miniatures? Aren't you too naive?" The 3 demon kings raised their eyebrows. How dare he mock them in public? The white-eyed wolf said, "To put it bluntly, you are purely using us as cannon fodder." "Then what do you want?" The Black Flame Demon King asked patiently. "It doesn't matter even if we are cannon fodder. But the premise is that you have to let us be willing to be cannon fodder. Don't take out something like the Dao miniatures to make a fool of yourself. My request is not excessive. Everyone present will have a Dao legacy," the white-eyed wolf said. He was really asking for too much. If everyone had a Dao miniatures, even if it was just an ordinary Dao legacy, there would be dozens of them. Even the 3 demon kings couldn't take out so many Dao miniatures. 1 Dao legacy per person? Sure enough. Hearing this, the 3 demon kings were furious. They turned to look at Long Chun and said, "Didn't you say that we can send them away with just some Dao miniatures?" "I did say that. But I also said that the leader must be given enough benefits. It's impossible that even the leader will only be given a Dao miniatures," Long Chun secretly said. The 3 looked at each other and looked at the white-eyed wolf patiently, saying, "It's absolutely impossible for each of you to have a Dao legacy, because in the entire Tianzhong Divine Treasure, except for Lord Divine King, no one has such a strong capital." The white-eyed wolf frowned. "Wolf cub, that's enough. Don't lose your life before you can get the Dao miniatures. Yeah, they are the 3 demon kings after all. We can't afford to offend them," Emperor Sea Lion and the others secretly advised. "Are the 3 demon kings that great? If it weren't for little Qinzi and little Lunatic being worried that Long Chen would cheat us, I would kill them right now." The white-eyed wolf snorted. The land of buried gods, the heavenly cloud sea, and Princess Huofeng's sovereign divine weapons totaled more than 30. Including Long Chen's heavenly god sword, it wasn't impossible to kill the 3 devil kings. However, he had to be wary of Long Chen. Qin Feiyang had given him the task to handle. Naturally, he could not be as impulsive as before. He had to consider all aspects. Emperor Sea Lion and the others were helpless. The only person who dared to disdain the 3 demon kings was probably this wolf cub. "You can't take out that much?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. He looked at the 3 demon kings and said, "Then you should at least do something. You can't expect us to fight with our lives on the line, just because of a few dozen nomological miniatures." How greedy! A cold light flashed in the 3 demon kings' eyes. Long Chen noticed the killing intent of the 3 demon kings. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "It's indeed too difficult for each of you to receive an inheritance. How about this? I'll give you an inheritance alone. As for the others, it'll be the same as before. Each of you will receive an ultimate nomological miniatures." The white-eyed wolf frowned. "Be content. There are so many of you. If each of you receives an ultimate nomological inheritance, that'll be dozens of nomological miniatures. If I let you search for them yourselves, I'm afraid you won't be able to find so many even if you search through the entire Sky Bell Divine Treasure." Long Chen smiled. "That's right. No one knows the Sky Bell Divine Treasure better than us. Although each of you has extraordinary strength in the Sky Cloud realm, you're nothing here. Even if you find the nomological miniatures, you might not be able to successfully snatch them. But now, you can get dozens of nomological miniatures at once. Is there anything better than this?" The 3 demon kings said. The white-eyed wolf looked at the Sea Lion Island and the others. The Sea Lion Island and the others nodded. The white-eyed wolf frowned and pondered for a moment. Looking at the 3 demon kings, he raised 2 fingers and shook his head. "1 inheritance isn't enough. At least 2 inheritances, and they must be nomological miniatures. Don't push your luck. Even we are still searching for the nomological miniatures. How can we give you 2? We can give you 2 nomological miniatures, but only the nomological miniatures. I advise you to be more tactful. As the saying goes, a greedy man is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Don't bring disaster to yourself just because of a moment of greed." The killing intent in the 3 demon kings' eyes was undisguised. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. They actually dared to threaten them. Did they really think they wouldn't dare to make a move? Long Chen looked at the white-eyed wolf's reaction, and a glint flashed in his eyes. The white-eyed wolf was different from Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang had a calm personality. No matter what happened, he could maintain a calm mind. However, the white-eyed wolf had a fiery temper, and did things regardless of the consequences. In the face of the provocation of the 3 demon kings, he might not be able to control his emotions and turn against the 3 demon kings. The white-eyed wolf turning against the 3 demon kings was, of course, a scene that he would be very happy to see. However, Long Chen, who had calculated everything, underestimated the white-eyed wolf this time. Although the white-eyed wolf had a fiery temper, it didn't mean that he was a reckless person. Moreover, people would grow, and it was impossible to stay in the same place forever. The white-eyed wolf was no exception. Although he was usually careless, he was actually very meticulous. The most important thing was, now that he had Princess Huofeng, he also felt responsible. With a sense of responsibility, he would naturally become mature. Moreover, the fate of so many people in the land of buried gods, and the sea of heavenly clouds was now in his hands. How could he dare to play around? All right. Just when Long Chen thought that the white-eyed wolf would mercilessly counterattack the 3 demon kings, the white-eyed wolf suddenly nodded in agreement, which made Long Chen quite surprised. It seemed that this wolf cub had also grown a lot. He could no longer measure it with his previous eyes. Great! The 3 demon kings laughed. The black flame demon king waved his hand, and 2 law inheritances appeared. One was the law of light, and the other was the law of sword. The white-eyed wolf unceremoniously kept the 2 inheritances, then looked at the sea lion emperor and the others and laughed. What are you all still standing there for? Hurry up and choose the law epitome you need. When the group of people heard this, they immediately swarmed forward. In just a moment, there were only 2 epitomes of the strongest law left in front of them. Only the white-eyed wolf and Princess Huofeng did not take them. Because previously, the 3 demon kings had prepared an epitome for the white-eyed wolf and the others. But now the white-eyed wolf had already taken away 2 inheritances, so the remaining 2 epitomes, the black flame demon king naturally thought that the white-eyed wolf would definitely not want them. However, just as the black flame demon king was about to take them back, the white-eyed wolf's eyes were sharp, and his hands were fast, and he grabbed the 2 epitomes. Don't want them? How was that possible? Only an idiot would not take advantage of the situation. Even if he did not need them, he could give them to others. Besides, he had not even comprehended a single ultimate profound meaning, and he indeed needed these epitomes of the strongest law. And, seeing this scene, the black flame demon king could not help but frown. The white-eyed wolf laughed. Lord Demon King, would you still care about these 2 epitomes? The black flame demon king was slightly stunned, and a trace of contempt crept up in his heart. What a greedy person. However, if it was the inheritance, he would definitely not take advantage of the white-eyed wolf so easily, but he really did not care about these 2 epitomes. Long Chen glanced at the white-eyed wolf and the others, then looked at the 3 demon kings and laughed. Since you have already discussed it, then my reward, shouldn't it be time for you to give it to me? You still have a reward? The white-eyed wolf looked at Long Chen in astonishment. Aren't you talking nonsense? Long Chen rolled his eyes. At the same time, when the black flame demon king heard Long Chen's words, he could not help but frown, hesitating. What's wrong? Lord Demon King, have you not thought about it along the way? Long Chen asked with a smile. The black flame demon king frowned. I can give you the inheritance, but how can you guarantee it to us? Then I really can't guarantee it. Long Chen shook his head, and then looked at the white-eyed wolf with deep meaning and said, however, if you can find the whereabouts of the white-eyed wolf, Princess Fire Phoenix, Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Hell God Hound, I can promise to kill them. It's not difficult to find them. The 3 demon kings smiled confidently. That's fine. The white-eyed wolf and the others are the brothers of Qin Feiyang and the madman, and even the 2 of them treat them as family. To be honest, killing them is more interesting than killing Qin Feiyang and the madman. Compared to killing them directly, I prefer to see their sorrowful expressions because of the loss of their brothers. Long Chen chuckled. What a ruthless person. Looking at the smile on Long Chen's face, the 3 demon kings could not help but mutter. Without hesitation, the black flame demon king waved his hand, and an inheritance of the strongest law appeared. What? This is the inheritance of the space-time law. The eyes of the white-eyed wolf and the others suddenly widened. This bastard actually took such a big advantage? Thank you. I wish us a happy cooperation. Long Chen looked at the 3 demon kings with a smile, and under the angry gaze of the white-eyed wolf and the others, he put away the inheritance of the space-time law. The black flame demon king's face was full of reluctance. However, when he thought of making Qin Feiyang and the madman suffer, he felt a lot better. He looked at Long Chen and said, Then you guys stay here and wait for our news. Okay. Long Chen nodded. The Black Flame Demon King took out the Demon Castle, established a contract with the Celestial Sword, and asked Long Chen for 6 extreme Yang Thunder Fire, and then turned and left without looking back. Long Chen, you. The masked Shura immediately looked at Long Chen with dissatisfaction. Don't talk. The white-eyed wolf quickly stopped him, and glanced in the direction where the 3 Demon Kings disappeared. The masked Shura was stunned. Could it be that the 3 Demon Kings would turn back and hide in the dark to spy on them? Caution is the parent of safety. The white-eyed wolf transmitted a sentence, and then looked at Long Chen, and secretly snorted. I was still grateful to you in my heart for helping us get 2 inheritances, but in the end, I realized that I was thinking too much. You were not helping us at all, but helping yourself. How am I doing this for myself? Didn't everyone get benefits? Long Chen was helpless. If you can't help them persuade us, you won't be able to get the inheritance of the space-time law. Isn't this all for yourself? Besides, how can the benefits we got be compared to yours? Why don't we exchange? The 2 inheritances in my hands, plus all the miniature laws, should I exchange them with you for the inheritance of the space-time law? The white-eyed wolf transmitted a message. Do you think I'm stupid? Long Chen looked at him with disdain. It's not you who is stupid, it's us who are stupid to cooperate with a bastard like you. The white-eyed wolf coldly snorted. He really didn't expect that Long Chen would get such a big bargain. Chapter 38:30. If you say that, I'll get angry. If it weren't for my cooperation, would you have gotten so many benefits? I'm afraid you wouldn't even be able to keep your life. Let's talk about it later. Compared to the benefits that Qin Feiyang and the lunatic got in the chaotic royal city, my gains are at most a small profit. Long Chen secretly thought. Then I beg you, please let me have this small profit of the rope. The white-eyed wolf said helplessly. It was a typical case of taking advantage of others. Then forget it. Long Chen chuckled. How could he give up the fat meat in his hands to others? The white-eyed wolf directly rolled his eyes at Long Chen and said, Sister Phoenix, immediately let the Fire Phoenix sword contact the Sword of Thanatos and tell little Qinzi about the situation here. Okay. Princess Huafeng secretly responded. Then, the white-eyed wolf also glanced in the direction where the 3 Demon Kings disappeared. Were they hiding in the dark or not? At this time, he had to be careful. If the 3 Demon Kings found out that he had been tricked and deceived, a fierce battle would be unavoidable. A fierce battle, it didn't matter. But he couldn't destroy the relationship between little Qinzi and the Divine King of Chaos. He had to trick them. Who is it? Suddenly, without any warning, the white-eyed wolf let out a thunderous roar, sending his spirit power towards the mountains and rivers down below. Long Chen, the Sea Lion King, and the others were shocked. At the moment when his divine consciousness poured into the mountains below, the white-eyed wolf's heart trembled. On a hidden hillside below, there were 3 people standing silently like ghosts. It was the 3 Demon Kings. They were actually spying on them in the dark. If the white-eyed wolf hadn't been careful, they would have been exposed. The 3 Demon Kings were also shocked. By the time they reacted, the white-eyed wolf's divine consciousness had already descended. They had no choice but to take the initiative to show themselves and smile awkwardly. Don't be nervous, it's us. They were also extremely puzzled. This person's insight was too terrifying. He could actually discover them. Why are you guys here? I thought it was some blind undead who was plotting against us. But didn't you guys leave? What are you doing down there? The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. Cough cough. That. We also discovered that there seemed to be someone hiding in the shadows. Fearing that you might be in danger, we decided to stay in the shadows to observe the situation. The 3 of them felt rather awkward. I see. The white-eyed wolf nodded in realization. He carefully scanned the area with his divine sense and shook his head with a smile. There's no one else. It seems that we're all hallucinating. Yes. Then I won't disturb everyone any longer. See you later. The 3 of them nodded repeatedly, then turned around and left. The white-eyed wolf's eyes were filled with mockery as he watched the three of them leave. Not bad. To think that they would return to monitor us. Long Chen looked at the white-eyed wolf in surprise. This wolf cub was much calmer than before. It seemed that he had another strong opponent that he could not ignore. Do you think I want to talk to you? The white-eyed wolf proudly turned his head away. Long Chen was helpless. Chaos Royal City. What the hell? Long Chen actually obtained an inheritance of the Law of Time from the hands of the three demon kings. Frenzy looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. Qin Feiyang nodded with a bitter smile. This guy actually benefited from it. Frenzy was indignant and asked, what benefits did the white-eyed wolf and the others obtain? Qin Feiyang said, they obtained 2 inheritances, and each of them obtained a miniature of an ultimate law. What inheritance? Frenzy's eyes lit up. 2 inheritances. This was even more profitable than Long Chen. You think it's the inheritance of an ultimate law? Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, the law of light and the law of sword. Frenzy was stunned and immediately lost interest. Actually, this has already exceeded my expectations. Originally, in my opinion, the 3 demon kings would at most give them a miniature of a law, and it might even be a miniature of an ordinary law. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Each of them obtained a miniature of an ultimate law. For everyone, this was already a good deal. After all, if it was up to Emperor Sea Lion and the others to search by themselves, they might not even be able to find a few miniature of an ultimate law. Frenzy said, let the white-eyed wolf keep the inheritance of the law of light. You can fuse with it when the time comes. I think so too. You have already grasped the ultimate meaning of the law of thunder, so I definitely can't fall behind. Qin Feiyang smiled. Is there a need to keep comparing with me? Frenzy was speechless. Haven't you been secretly competing with me? Qin Feiyang looked at him in disdain. Is that called secretly competing with you? That is an open contest with you. Frenzy grinned and immediately closed his eyes, continuing to fuse with the inheritance of the law of space. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. After saying a few words to the Sword of Death, he also closed his eyes and continued to fuse with the inheritance of the law of cause and effect. On the mountain peak, the Master Jura whispered, the 3 demon kings should have left by now. The white-eyed wolf secretly said, regardless of whether they have left or not, we have to communicate in secret. After all, we have to guard against Long Chen. The Master Jura glanced at Long Chen with a trace of fear in his eyes. He had also learned about Long Chen's identity from the white-eyed wolf. As the son of Ice Dragon, it was difficult for him not to be afraid. Princess Huofeng transmitted her voice. The Sword of Death sent a message, telling us not to bother with Long Chen. He also said that he has prepared a surprise for us. What surprise? The white-eyed wolf was curious. He didn't say that. However, since Qin Feiyang said that it's a surprise, it's definitely not something ordinary. Also, he said that the Law of Light inheritance should be kept for him. As for the Law of Sword inheritance, you can deal with it yourself. Princess Huofeng secretly said. The white-eyed wolf nodded and asked, did he say anything else? Nothing else. Princess Huofeng shook her head. The white-eyed wolf lowered his head and muttered, the Law of Sword inheritance. He looked at Emperor Sea Lion and the others and asked, who among you has mastered the Law of Sword? Me. The Master Jura raised his hand. His personality was relatively cold, but in the face of the ultimate inheritance, he found it difficult to remain calm. Why don't you take a look at the people here? Which one of them isn't your elder? Aren't you embarrassed to compete with them? Don't you know how to respect the old and love the young? The white-eyed wolf despised him. When the Master Jura heard this, his expression suddenly became awkward. It's fine. Young people have greater potential. The black-clothed middle-aged man smiled. Emperor Sea Lion and the others also nodded. Are you sure? The white-eyed wolf glanced at the group of people. The black-clothed middle-aged man was from the land of the buried gods, so it wasn't surprising that he took care of the Master Jura. But Emperor Sea Lion and the others were from the heavenly cloud sea. It was a bit unexpected that they would take care of the Master Jura. Everyone nodded. Although the land of the buried gods and the heavenly clouds sea belonged to two different forces, the little rabbit had always taken care of the land of the buried gods. It could be seen that the relationship between the two forces was quite good. At the same time, this also proved the character of Emperor Sea Lion and the others. They were willing to give these opportunities to the young people. Of course, it was impossible to say that they had no selfishness because there was no such person in this world. However, compared to the old antiques of the three major races, they were really good. Then, the white-eyed wolf took out the law of sword inheritance and looked at the Mas de Jura. Although the Mas de Jura's expression couldn't be seen, the emotions in his eyes were clear, full of excitement. And seeing that the white-eyed wolf didn't give it to him, he couldn't help but become anxious. Look at how anxious you are. It's just an ordinary law of inheritance. Is there a need to be so anxious? The white-eyed wolf smiled disdainfully and threw the law of sword inheritance over, saying indifferently, "You got lucky." The Mas de Jura grabbed it and looked down at the inheritance. He was so excited that his hands were trembling. As for the white-eyed wolf's words, he directly ignored them, because the white-eyed wolf did have the qualifications to say that. He had mastered the strongest laws. But he was different. He was just an ordinary person. He didn't have such big ambitions and pursuits. The white-eyed wolf looked at everyone and said, "As for the law of light inheritance, I want to keep it for little Qin Zi. You don't have any objections, right?" Everyone looked at each other and smiled. Leaving it for Qin Feiyang, what objections could they have? The white-eyed wolf turned to look at Long Chun and said, "Tell me, what are we going to do next? We can't really wait here for their news, right?" "Wait for what news? You two just stay here. They won't be able to find you in their lifetime. Everything will be as usual. Do what you have to do." Long Chun waved his hand. "Although it's impossible for them to find us, there's still the Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound," the white-eyed wolf said. "Can't you just contact them and ask them to change their appearances?" Long Chun smiled faintly. "That's right. If it was in the past, no matter how they changed their appearances, they wouldn't be able to escape the pursuit of the three demon kings, because they are all living people and don't have undead aura. But it's different now. Now there are many undead in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Because of the undead breakthrough pill, the three demon kings can no longer determine their identities from their undead aura. As long as they are careful and don't expose their identities, it's basically like looking for a needle in a haystack." The Mas de Jura nodded. "Okay then. We'll go directly to the exit of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, and subdue a few sovereign divine weapons on the way. As for the Law of Light, it's not important now." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. With Qin Feiyang and the others searching for Law of Light in the primal chaos royal city, was there a need for them to look for Law of Light? They just had to protect themselves and not cause trouble for Qin Feiyang and the others. "Then let's part ways here." Long Chun smiled faintly. "Where are you going?" The white-eyed wolf stopped Long Chun. "I'm not as relaxed as you guys. I still have to find some Law of Light." Long Chun sighed helplessly. The white-eyed wolf shook his head and said, "That won't do. From now on, you have to stay with us." "Why?" Long Chun was suspicious. The white-eyed wolf stepped forward and hooked his arm around Long Chun's neck. He chuckled and said, "We're old friends. Old friends should stay together. This way we can take care of each other." Long Chun looked at the white-eyed wolf in a daze. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf gave him an unfathomable feeling. "Let's go. Isn't it just a Law of Light? On the way, I'll help you look for it." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Long Chun frowned. Why was it that the more he looked at it, the more off it seemed? Chapter 38-31. What are you doing? Are you trying to provoke us? The heavenly god sword roared and unleashed his divine aura. The white-eyed wolf was sent flying. Princess Huafeng and the others' faces changed. They hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed the white-eyed wolf. Only then did they stabilize themselves in the air. The white-eyed wolf's face was pale, and a trace of golden blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. At the same time, The Sea Lion King and the others couldn't help but stare at the heavenly god sword with murderous intent in their eyes. What's wrong? It seems like all of you are not convinced. The heavenly god sword was arrogant, and his tone was full of disdain. Haha. Along with a loud laugh, the white-eyed wolf gently pushed Princess Huofeng away and walked step by step to the front of the Sea Lion Emperor and the others. He raised his head to look at the heavenly god sword and laughed cruelly. Very arrogant, huh? So what if I'm arrogant? I have the right to be arrogant. The heavenly god sword sneered. Right. The white-eyed wolf's eyes turned cold. With a clang, the blood dragon blade appeared. The blood dragon blade was in the hands of the masked Azura. When the white-eyed wolf arrived, the masked Azura had returned it to the white-eyed wolf. With the appearance of the blood dragon blade, Princess Huofeng took a step forward and landed in front of the white-eyed wolf. She exuded a murderous aura. The Fire Phoenix sword and more than a dozen Dominator divine weapons appeared and unleashed their divine aura. Emperor Sea Lion and the others looked at each other and summoned their own Dominator divine weapons. There were more than 30 Dominator divine weapons in total, and they faced off against the heavenly god sword. Long Chen's eyes narrowed when he saw this. Although the other Dominator divine weapons of the dragons were in his hands, they were far less than the white-eyed wolf. If it weren't for the fact that Little Qin still needs your help in retrieving sacred weapons like Pale Snow and the Broken Sword, I really wouldn't mind ending things with you here. The white-eyed wolf looked at Long Chen and laughed. Long Chen frowned. The white-eyed wolf's gaze turned and landed on the heavenly god sword. He sneered. You want to talk about capital with me? Are you still dreaming? Even if you have surpassed a low-level Dominator weapon, so what? The killing intent of the heavenly god sword surged. You want to kill me? I'm standing right here. Come and try me if you can. The white-eyed wolf had a provocative look on his face. He really wanted to know what level the heavenly god sword was at. You're courting death. The heavenly god sword was furious. But at this moment, Long Chen looked at the celestial sword and said indifferently, Stand down. Retreat? The heavenly god sword was stunned. We're friends. There's no need to ruin our friendship over such a small matter. Don't you agree, Brother Wolf? Long Chen looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled faintly. Haha. You're more reasonable, kid. That's right. We're all friends. Why do we have to make things so unpleasant? Maybe we'll have to rely on each other in the future. The white-eyed wolf laughed loudly. Yes, harmony breeds wealth. Long Chen smiled slightly, looked at the heavenly god sword, and said, Go and calm down first. Humph. The heavenly god sword coldly snorted and disappeared into Long Chen's body. Then, Long Chen walked in front of the white-eyed wolf and laughed. Then let's go together. It's quite boring to be alone anyway. It's because I was afraid that you would be bored that I invited you to go together. The white-eyed wolf was also smiling. It was as if the friction from before had never happened. Then shall we set off now? Long Chen asked. Of course. The white-eyed wolf nodded, glanced at the mountains and rivers below, and shook his head. There's no need to stay in this place any longer. Let's go. With a wave of the white-eyed wolf's hand, the group of people immediately flew towards the exit of the Heavenly Bell Divine Treasure. What are you doing? Princess Huofeng looked at the white-eyed wolf in confusion. He actually invited Long Chen to go together. Wasn't this tantamount to keeping a threat by their side? You don't understand. Keeping him by our side is to make it easier to monitor him. The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. Monitor? Princess Huofeng was stunned. Yes. Little Qinzi and the others are in the chaotic royal city. It wasn't easy for them to build a good relationship with the Divine King of Chaos. We can't let this guy ruin all our efforts. The white-eyed wolf secretly thought. Do you mean that Long Chen might betray us? Princess Huofeng was surprised and doubtful. I don't know, but we have to be careful. If Long Chen really betrays us, then not only will we be in trouble, Little Qinzi and the others will also be in trouble. Of course. This is only one of the reasons. The white-eyed wolf secretly smiled. Princess Huofeng was stunned and said in surprise, There are other reasons. Yes. Think about it. Not only does Long Chen have the heavenly god sword, but he also has the other sovereign divine weapons of the dragons. With this strength, isn't it easy for him to subdue the sovereign divine weapons of the Tianzhong divine treasure? So we can't give him this opportunity. After all, every sovereign divine weapon he subdues is a greater threat to us. Besides, just now he said that he wants to find the epitome of the laws. Why would he want to find the epitome of the laws? It must be for the dragons. With his strength and the sovereign divine weapons in his hands, if we don't do anything, I'm afraid that when the time comes, he can't imagine how many epitomes of the laws he can get. If he's doing it for himself, I really can't be bothered. But for the dragons, can I allow it? The white-eyed wolf explained. I see. Princess Huofeng suddenly understood. Suddenly, she realized that she seemed to have underestimated the white-eyed wolf's ability. Once this guy became serious, it would make one's scalp go numb. How is it? Do you admire this brother now? You can't wait to repay me with your body? The white-eyed wolf looked at Princess Huofeng sneakily. Shameless. Princess Huofeng rolled her eyes. But to be honest, after leaving Qin Feiyang and Madman, this guy was like a different person. Whether it was his brain or his methods, they were not on the same level. In fact, Princess Huofeng didn't know. The white-eyed wolf was originally very smart, but because he was usually with Qin Feiyang and the others would come up with ideas for him. There was no need for him to waste his energy. He was too lazy to waste his energy. Chaos Royal City. When Bloodthirsty Demon King, Black Flame Demon King, and Feng Tian Demon King rushed back to the Chaos Royal City, it was already 2 years later. Qin Feiyang and the others had been in the Chaos Royal City for almost 5 years. Outside the city, the number of undeads gathered had already reached tens of thousands, coming from all over the place. The heavenly tribulation in the sky had never stopped. Not to mention Xiao Shui and the others, even Snow White Queen, and the other sovereign divine weapons were already feeling tired. As for the Ice Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons, they had already rested countless times. However, they didn't need to waste much time resting, because when they rested, they would all go to the ancient castle. The ancient castle had the law of time of 5,000 years per day. Even if they rested for 8 to 10 years, only a short time would have passed outside. So overall, there wasn't any delay. When they returned to the Chaos Royal City, the 3 Demon Kings saw that Snow White Queen and the other sovereign divine weapons were actually helping the undeads to pass the tribulation. The anger in their hearts grew even stronger. It was one thing for the Chaos Divine King and the Chaos Royal City to help Qin Feiyang and the others, but now even the other Demon Kings were helping a group of people, and they didn't even try to hide it. They really couldn't figure it out. What kind of charm did these 2 little bastards have? Yo, isn't this the 3 Demon Kings? I didn't expect that you guys would be gone for more than 4 years. I really missed you guys a little. How is it? Did you successfully find the extreme Yang Thunder Fire? When Li Zhongxing saw the 3 of them return, he immediately went up to them with a fawning smile. Although on the surface it was fawning, the 3 Demon Kings could clearly see a trace of ridicule in Li Zhongxing's eyes. Even such an ant dared to tease them now. The anger in their hearts almost made them lose their minds. Thanks to you guys, we have found the extreme Yang Thunder Fire. Black Flame Demon King suppressed his anger and said, "That's good." Li Zhongxing heaved a sigh of relief. Don't put on an act in front of us. Don't think that just because you have Qin Feiyang backing you up, you have the right to be arrogant with us, because at most, you can only be considered a dog beside Qin Feiyang and the madman. Black Flame Demon King's face was full of ridicule. Am I that arrogant? No. I am concerned about you guys, but you guys actually scolded me. How can you not know how to appreciate kindness? Li Zhongxing's face was full of grievances. Since seeing the 3 of them in such a sorry state last time, the fear in his heart had disappeared. Black Flame Demon King clenched his fists. Sky Demon King patted Black Flame Demon King's shoulder and secretly said, "There is no need to compete with him anyway, there will be time for them to cry in the future." True. Black Flame Demon King nodded with a smile, took out 3 extreme Yang Thunder Fire, and said lightly, "Take it to your master." Okay. Li Zhongxing ran toward the castle with the 3 extreme yang thunderfire, but suddenly patted his head and hurriedly stopped. He turned around and ran to the 3 of them, apologizing. Sorry, I have been too busy recently and forgot that my master is in seclusion. I am afraid he has no time to help you guys refine pills. Seclusion? The 3 of them raised their eyebrows. Since he was in seclusion, then where did the undead outside the city get the undead barrier-breaking pill from? Did they really think they were monkeys? It's true. I am not lying to you guys. My master is really in seclusion. Isn't this the inheritance of the law of cause and effect that Lord Divine King gave to my master? So my master is now fusing with this inheritance. Why don't you guys come back another day? Li Zhongxing handed the 3 extreme yang thunder fire back to the 3 of them. What? Lord Divine King gave him an inheritance of the law of cause and effect. The 3 of them were shocked, and their faces were full of disbelief. Yes, not only my master, but the others also received an inheritance of the strongest law. Only Schwerer and I, Old Poison, is not so lucky. Why? Don't the 3 of you know about this? Li Zhongxing was suspicious. The 3 of them looked at each other. They really didn't know. An inheritance of the strongest law for each of them. This was too extravagant. Why was Lord Divine King so good to them? Even these old subordinates couldn't compare to him. Bloodthirsty Demon King asked, when did this happen? After Lord Divine King transcended his tribulation. Speaking of this, Li Zhongxing slapped his head hard and shook his head. Look at my memory. At that time, you guys had already gone out to look for the extreme yang thunder fire, and didn't see it with your own eyes. Besides, you guys have been running around outside all these years, so it's not strange that you don't know. When the 3 of them heard this, their eyes flashed with killing intent, because this was blatantly making fun of them. They were the first ones to look for the extreme yang thunder fire, but they still hadn't obtained the undead barrier-breaking pill. As for the undead outside, they slowly received the news later. Now, not only had many people obtained the undead barrier-breaking pill, but they had also successfully transcended their tribulations and began to enjoy a beautiful life. Chapter 38-32. Lords, I'm really sorry, but please wait for a while. Li Zhongxing ignored the killing intent in their eyes and said apologetically, if it was before, he would never have had the guts. But now, he had Qin Feiyang behind him, and Qin Feiyang had the Divine King of Chaos behind him. What was there to be afraid of? Black Flame Demon King clenched his fists and pointed at the undead outside the city. Then where did their pills come from? Li Zhongxing looked at the undead outside the city and said with a smile, this was refined by the Blood Ancestor. The Blood Ancestor also knows how to refine the undead barrier-breaking pill? The 3 of them were taken aback and felt even more astonished. It's my master who taught him. Li Zhongxing smiled. Then call the Blood Ancestor out. Black Flame Demon King said. This, Li Zhongxing was a little embarrassed. What? Now we are not even qualified to see the Blood Ancestor? The 3 of them were furious. This was too much. They had been making things difficult for them again and again. Did they really think they were made of mud? No. Li Zhongxing hurriedly waved his hand and explained. The Blood Ancestor said that no one can disturb him when he is refining pills. Not to mention the 3 of you. Even we are the same. So arrogant? Demon King Feng Tian sneered. There's no other way. After all, the Blood Ancestor is not Qin Feiyang. My master, Qin Feiyang, is humble and kind, but the Blood Ancestor is cruel and violent. We dare not offend him at all. The most important thing is, the Blood Ancestor has mastered 3 ultimate mysteries. Do you think a small character like me dares to disobey his orders? So, please be magnanimous and don't make things difficult for me. Li Zhongxing smiled flatteringly. 3 ultimate mysteries? The 3 of them looked at each other and trembled slightly. In the past, the Blood Ancestor had only mastered 2 ultimate mysteries, the Law of Slaughter and the Law of Death. How did he master another one in just a few years? Oh, aren't they the 3 Demon Kings? Li Zhongxing, what's wrong with you? Why don't you treat such distinguished guests well? At this moment, the blood ancestor walked out and immediately scolded Li Zhongxing when he saw the three demon kings. I'm just afraid that they'll disturb your pill refining. Li Zhongxing quickly ran over and said with a flattering smile. How can this be called a disturbance? It is our honor to have the three of you here. No matter how busy he is, we still have to treat him well. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and prepare a seat, said the blood ancestor. The three demon kings couldn't help but frown. These words seemed to be complimenting them, but why did it sound so grating? They echoed each other. Playing with them on purpose? All right. Li Zhongxing nodded and bowed. He took out 3 small stools and ran in front of the 3 demon kings. He said apologetically, Lords, I'm sorry. Our conditions are limited. I only have these small stools. I hope you don't mind. The 3 of them looked at the small bench in front of them. It was only half a foot tall, and it was as if they were sitting on the ground. Did sitting on top of it fit their statuses as demon kings? This was outrageous. This was a way to humiliate them. Demon King Feng Tian suppressed his anger and looked at the blood ancestor. Since Qin Feiyang is in seclusion, you can help us refine pills. Li Zhongxing saw that the 3 of them ignored him and asked suspiciously, Lords, aren't you going to sit? Get lost. The 3 of them were instantly furious. Didn't he see that they were desperately suppressing the anger in their hearts? And he still came to provoke them. Did he not have eyes? Li Zhongxing smiled awkwardly and immediately put away the small bench. He ran to the blood ancestor as if he was running for his life and said, You saw it too. It's not that I don't want to entertain them, it's that they don't appreciate it. It's not your fault, it's not your fault. They're big shots. This kind of small bench doesn't deserve their status. The blood ancestor shook his head. Li Zhongxing pouted and muttered, So what if they're big shots? Didn't they still come to beg us? What did you say? The 3 demon kings glared at Li Zhongxing. No. Li Zhongxing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a flattering smile, I told the blood ancestor that the 3 of you are tall, powerful, and handsome. You're simply dragons and phoenixes. Hearing this, not only the blood ancestor, Xiao Shui, Old Poison Li Feng, but even the undead outside the city couldn't help but laugh. They had actually wanted to laugh for a long time, but they had been holding it in. After all, they were the 3 infamous demon kings. But now they really couldn't hold it in. Because Li Zhongxing's description was not appropriate at all. Demon King Feng Tian and Demon King Black Flame were very suitable to be described as tall, powerful, and handsome. Demon King Black Flame was 2 meters tall, and was indeed worthy of the word tall and powerful. Demon King Feng Tian was not a good person, but he was indeed a little handsome. But Demon King Bloodthirsty was just a 7 or 8-year-old kid. Was it really good to describe him like that? Are you guys done acting? Suddenly, a deep voice rang out. A terrifying aura surged out from the scene. Li Zhongxing and the blood ancestor looked at Demon King Feng Tian, and saw that his face was extremely gloomy. If not, then you can continue. Demon King Feng Tian smiled ferociously. Xiao Shui exchanged a glance with the old poison and transmitted her voice. Old Li blood ancestor, quit while you're ahead. Don't force these 3 into a corner, and end up taking us down. I don't believe it. Are they really not afraid of death? Li Zhongxing snorted. Don't challenge their bottom line. If they really lose their minds, do you think they will dare to do anything? Xiao Shui rolled her eyes at him. Li Zhongxing's heart trembled as he glanced at the 3 demon kings. Looking at their state, they were indeed about to lose their minds. Demon King Black Flame took a deep breath and tried to suppress the killing intent in his heart. He looked at the blood ancestor and asked, Just one question. Do you want to refine pills for us? They thought that the blood ancestor would be easier to talk to than Qin Feiyang. Because in their view the blood ancestor was not as bold as Qin Feiyang, who dared to make things difficult for them again and again. However, the blood ancestor pondered for a moment, and gave an unexpected answer. No. The blood ancestor shook his head. Say that again? The 3 demon kings clenched their fists. The blood ancestor said indifferently, I'll say it a few times. It's the same answer. I won't refine it for you. You're courting death. Bloodthirsty Demon King roared. Demon King Black Flame pressed down on Bloodthirsty Demon King, stared at the Blood Ancestor gloomily and said, "Don't forget, you guys made a blood oath to help us refine pills." "Yes. But that's not right." The Blood Ancestor chuckled. "What do you mean?" Demon King Black Flame raised his eyebrows. "The one who promised to refine pills for you is Qin Feiyang, not this ancestor. So even if I don't refine pills for you, the wrath of heaven will not come to this ancestor. Moreover, this ancestor has no obligation to refine pills for you. Let's talk about it later. Although we promised to refine pills for you, we didn't say that we would refine them for you now. But you guys are different. If you dare to hurt this ancestor now, the blood oath will immediately come true. Are you confident in blocking the wrath of heaven?" The Blood Ancestor looked at the three of them mockingly. The three of them clenched their hands together tightly. If looks could kill, the Blood Ancestor would have been killed. "Don't worry. Qin Feiyang will refine pills for you sooner or later." The Blood Ancestor smiled and comforted them. "Okay. Very good. Even you dare to challenge us. Not bad at all. Continue to be arrogant. There will be time for you to cry in the future." The three Demon Kings suppressed their anger and turned around to leave without looking back. Their killing intent soared to the heavens. After all, these people had to pay the price. "Beg you?" The Blood Ancestor's face was full of sarcasm. Did they really think that the little conspiracy in their hearts would succeed? Just wait and see. Let's see who will cry in the end. Obviously, the three Demon Kings were ready to start a plan to take revenge on Qin Feiyang and the others. In other words, they wanted to hunt down the White-Eyed Wolf and the others. But they didn't know that this was a scam. They were completely played by Qin Feiyang and the others. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy are about to come out of seclusion. The Blood Ancestor looked at the ancient castle and smiled. And Li Zhongxing nodded. "When they come out of seclusion, I will be able to relax. This alchemy is really not a job for humans." The Blood Ancestor shook his head. These 2 years had exhausted him quite a bit. Although the ancient castle had a time array, and it didn't take much time to refine pills, when the undead outside needed pills, he had to refine them. Sometimes he wanted to go into seclusion to comprehend the profound laws, but Xiao Shui suddenly sent a batch of herbs. What could he do? Throw them aside and not refine them? How was that possible? After all, the undead had paid him. As a businessman, how could he ignore his customers? So, it wasn't physical exhaustion, but mental exhaustion. Another half a year passed. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy came out of seclusion one after another, their faces glowing. They had finally grasped an ultimate profound law. How could they not be happy? Now, even when facing the Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Lord, without the sovereign divine weapon, they already had the strength to protect themselves with their own strength. As for Yin Xiang, he had already grasped the Death Law's ultimate profound law. However, he didn't come out of seclusion, and continued to comprehend other ultimate profound laws. Now they didn't lack laws at all. They could have whatever they wanted. Unlike before when they obtained a few laws, they still had to discuss and distribute them one by one. Originally, seeing that the Blood Ancestor and the others were managing the business in an orderly manner, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy also planned to continue comprehending other ultimate profound laws. But the Blood Ancestor didn't allow it. He directly dragged the two of them out. They had no choice but to take over again. As for the Blood Ancestor, after returning the business to Qin Feiyang and Frenzy, he dragged Li Feng and hid in the cultivation room. In any case, he didn't plan to walk out of the cultivation room again. Day after day, year after year, ever since the primal Chaos Divine King opened the door of potential, he never appeared again. However, from time to time, everyone could feel a terrifying power of life and death in the hall. Snow Queen and the others also didn't appear. It seemed that after opening the door of potential, they all wanted to improve their strength by another step. Bloodthirsty Demon King, Black Flame Demon King, and Feng Tian Demon King also didn't come to Qin Feiyang to refine pills. The undead outside the city were somewhat surprised. What was wrong with the three Demon Kings? They actually endured until now. This wasn't like their personalities. Chapter 38-33. Only Qin Feiyang and the others knew what the three Devil Kings were doing now. However, the failure of the three Devil Kings was already destined from the beginning. After receiving the news, the Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Hellhound had already changed their appearances. Even Qi Xiaoyan and the white-bearded old man had changed their appearances and aura to avoid trouble. Although Qin Feiyang didn't mention them back then, even if the three Devil Kings found them, they might be able to obtain some benefits from the three Devil Kings like Long Chen and the Sea Lion Emperor. But Qi Xiaoyan didn't want to take advantage of this, because if he got involved with the three Devil Kings, it would be fine if he handled it well. If he didn't handle it well, he might attract trouble instead. Therefore, instead of taking such a risk, it was better to keep a low profile and stay out of it, collecting the law miniatures in peace. If he was lucky, he might even be able to subdue a few sovereign weapons and greatly increase the strength of the Qilin clan. And now, the number of people in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure was increasing every day. After all these years, according to Qin Feiyang and the others, the number of undead who had successfully transcended the tribulation and were reincarnated as humans had already reached 50,000 to 60,000. Some of them had even started to form families and have children. As the number of humans continued to increase, Tan Wu and the others' identities were naturally better concealed. This was because even if they were to encounter the three Devil Kings, as long as they didn't reveal any flaws, they could still claim to be the undead of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Moreover, whether it was Tan Wu and the others or Qi Xiaoyan and the others, none of them were easy to deal with. Therefore, it would be harder for the three Devil Kings to find them than to ascend to the heavens. White-Eyed Wolf and Princess Huofeng naturally didn't need to be mentioned. The three Devil Kings didn't recognize them back then, and now it was even more impossible for them to guess that these two were the people they were looking for. On this day, it had been exactly 100 years since Qin Feiyang and the others entered the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. 100 years. For the first 20 years, he had been adventuring outside. For the next 80 years, he had been in the Chaos Royal City, never leaving. Apart from Qiao Shui, who was responsible for keeping records, no one knew how many law miniatures he had obtained. As for the Heaven Bell Divine Treasures Extreme Young Lightning Fire, Yin Yang Wood, and God of Death Fruit, after years of frantic searching, they had become extremely scarce. It was precisely because of this that the number of undead creatures that came to trade with Qin Feiyang and the others gradually decreased. After all, without the herbs, even if Qin Feiyang was given more law miniatures, he would not be able to refine it. On the city wall, Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at the decreasing number of undead outside and felt very anxious. If these undead couldn't find the herbs, they wouldn't be able to trade with them. How much less would they be able to earn from the law miniatures? Old Qin, is there any way to solve the problem of the lack of medicinal herbs? Madman frowned. Yes. Enter the Black Tortoise World. Qin Feiyang nodded. The Black Tortoise World had these herbs. This was because the Devil's Land wasn't the only place that had a large number of them. Many of them could also be found in the Central Province and the 4 major regions. Aren't you just wasting your breath? Madman rolled his eyes. If they could enter the Black Tortoise World, would this still be a problem? Qin Feiyang sighed. In the end, these undead haven't realized the importance of medicinal herbs. All these years, they only cared about searching and never thought of protecting and cultivating these herbs. Although that's the case, there are still some problems. Yin Yang Wood and God of Death Fruit can be cultivated, but Extreme Young Lightning Fire needs to be slowly born in a special environment. It is equivalent to being born from heaven and earth. Even if it can be cultivated, it can't be done in a short period of time. The madman shook his head. In any case, we definitely can't help with this matter. They can only rely on themselves. As for us, we have already earned a lot of law miniatures over the years. Even if no one comes to trade with us in the future, this trip to the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure can be considered a complete success. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. It wasn't that he was heartless, but that there was really no other way. As the madman said, although the God of Death Fruit and Yin Yang Wood could be artificially cultivated, it was too difficult to artificially cultivate Extreme Young Lightning Fire. Take time as an example. A extreme young lightning fire would take at least a few thousand years to form. After a few thousand years, they would have already left the Heaven Bell divine treasure. All right. Don't force it. Let nature take its course. The madman nodded and smiled in relief. At this time, Xiao Shui walked to Qin Feiyang's side and handed Qin Feiyang a Qingkuan bag. She smiled and said, "A total of 50 sets of herbs. Go and refine them right away." Qin Feiyang smiled and took the Qingkuan bag. He was about to enter the ancient castle. Clang. But at this time, a loud and clear sound of a bell exploded in the sky. Qin Feiyang and the others looked up at the sky. They couldn't help but have a trace of bewilderment on their faces. What's that sound? Li Zhongxing and the others, as well as the undead outside, also looked up at the sky with suspicion. Old Qin, don't you find this sound familiar? The madman's pupils suddenly shrank as he asked. Familiar? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. The loud sound shook the world, lingering in the air. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This seemed to be the sound of the Sky Bell. When the Sky Bell divine treasure descended on Sky Cloud Island, it also made this sound. It's the sound of the Sky Bell. The madman nodded. What's going on? Why would the sound of the Sky Bell suddenly sound here? Da-da. Accompanied by hurried footsteps, the Blood Ancestor, Azure Dragon, Yun Xiang, Li Feng, and Daifuku also quickly walked out of the ancient castle and looked up at the sky. Looking at the eyes of the Blood Ancestor and Azure Dragon, they seemed to know something, but they also seemed to be in disbelief. Whoosh. At the same time, Snow Queen and the other Demon Kings also walked out of their respective halls. They looked up at the sky and frowned. Feiyang, this matter is very unusual. Suddenly, the Death God's sword's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Fire Phoenix Sword just contacted me and said that she also heard this bell sound. The Death God's sword said. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. What's wrong? The madman looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, Fire Phoenix Sword contacted the Death God's sword and said that they also heard this bell sound. It can't be. Could it be that the White-Eyed Wolf and the others are near the Primal Chaos Royal City? The madman immediately scanned the outside of the city. No. They have already reached the exit of the Sky Bell Divine Treasury, which is dozens of years away from here. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Impossible. How can they hear it from so far away? The madman was surprised. There's only one explanation. This bell sound resounds throughout the entire Sky Bell Divine Treasury. No matter where you are, whether it's a human or an undead, you can hear this bell sound. Qin Feiyang said solemnly. The madman raised his eyebrows and said, Then quickly contact Tan Wu and Qi Xiaoyan and ask if they heard it. But before Qin Feiyang could speak, the Death God's sword said, Tan Wu and Qi Xiaoyan's sovereign divine weapon contacted me one after another and said that they heard this bell sound. They all heard it. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that it was as he had guessed. This bell sound had spread throughout the entire Sky Bell Divine Treasury. Clang. Suddenly, the bell rang again, deafening everyone's ears. The Blood Ancestor and Azure Dragon looked at each other and walked in front of Qin Feiyang and the madman with a sullen face. Seeing this, Yun Xiang and the others also followed over suspiciously. Ancestor, Senior, do you know something? Qin Feiyang asked. I'm not sure yet. Let's wait a little longer. The Blood Ancestor shook his head and looked up at the sky. A moment later, the third bell sound echoed and didn't calm down for a long time. What's going on? The Blood Ancestor whispered with a face full of surprise. It's indeed strange. Azure Dragon also had a puzzled look. You guys get ready. The Divine King is in seclusion, so don't disturb him. I'll send you guys away. The voice of the Primal Chaos Royal City suddenly sounded from a certain part of the city. What? Send us away? Qin Feiyang and the madman were stunned. Wasn't it only 100 years? Why was it sending them away? That's right. The third bell sound is the time for us outsiders to leave the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. But why is this? The last time we entered the Sky Bell Divine Treasury, it was 1,000 years. Why is it only 100 years this time? The blood ancestor frowned. Only then did Qin Feiyang and the madman understand. It turned out that when the bell sounded, it meant that their training was over. The madman asked, "Ancestor, is there a rule in the Sky Bell Divine Treasury that it must be 1,000 years? This time, I've only entered twice. I don't know if there was such a rule in the past, but the last time it was 1,000 years, and this time it's 100 years. Isn't the difference too big?" The blood ancestor frowned with a puzzled expression. Wait, could it be that the Divine Kingdom invaded the Sky Cloud Realm in advance? Lord Feather Emperor and the others couldn't resist, so they begged the Sky Bell Divine Treasury to let us go back in advance? Yin Xiang said in surprise. This. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. What Yin Xiang said wasn't impossible. Although the Sky Cloud Realm had the Feather Emperor, Dragon King, Feng Ho, the Qilin Master, and the Little Rabbit, the ruler weapons of the Sky Cloud Realm had been brought to the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. Even the ruler weapons of the Demon Palace, Deity Palace, and Sky Palace had come to the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. In other words, the current Sky Cloud Realm didn't even have a single ruler weapon. Therefore, if the Divine Kingdom really invaded in advance, even the Feather Emperor and the others wouldn't be able to stop them. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but start to worry. Although it was just a guess, it was the only explanation at the moment. The Divine Kingdom had arrived in advance, and the Feather Emperor and the others didn't have a ruler weapon. This would be a great catastrophe for the Sky Cloud Realm. Qin Feiyang asked, "Senior, how long will it take to rush to the exit now?" "If it's you, it'll take at least 30 to 40 years, but this sovereign will personally escort you, so it'll only take 8 or 9 years at most," the Primal Chaos Royal City said. 8 or 9 years. Qin Feiyang's expression froze. If the Divine Kingdom had already arrived in the Sky Cloud Realm, it was hard to imagine what would happen in 8 or 9 years. Madman asked, "Is there no faster way?" "No. Unless we can break the rules." But the Sky Bell Divine Treasury's rules of not being able to teleport, even this sovereign and the Divine King can't break it. The Primal Chaos Royal City replied. Chapter 38-34. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and prepare, Madman urged. What about us? The undead outside the city immediately fell into chaos. Madman sighed. How can we still care about you now? But we have already prepared the herbs. I beg you, please help us refine the medicinal pills before you leave. The undead outside the city all knelt in the air, because as long as Qin Feiyang and the others left, it meant that they would never be able to get rid of their undead bodies. It wasn't easy to see hope, so they didn't want to miss it. When Madman saw this scene, he couldn't bear it and couldn't help but turn to look at Qin Feiyang. With so many undead kneeling in front of him, how could he be indifferent? Hence, Qin Feiyang felt very uncomfortable and didn't know what to do. Yin Xiang scratched his head and looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman. Don't be so nervous. It was just my guess and might not be true. Maybe there are other reasons. If he knew that it would cause chaos, he wouldn't have said it. Whether it is true or not, we have to leave the Sky Bell Divine Treasure now. After all, the bell has already rung. Even if we want to stay, the Sky Bell Divine Treasure won't allow it. Blood Ancestor shook his head. Let them enter the city. There are still 8 to 9 years, enough for you to help them pass the tribulation. Suddenly, the Primal Chaos Divine King's voice echoed in the hall. What? Snow White Queen and the others turned to look at the hall. So many undead were allowed to enter the Primal Chaos Royal City? This was the first time in history. The Primal Chaos Royal City was also surprised. However, they didn't go against the Primal Chaos Divine King's wishes and said to the undead outside the city, "Then come in, but don't run around. Leave immediately after the tribulation." Thank you. The undead outside the city were extremely grateful and immediately rushed into the Primal Chaos Royal City. Thank you, Senior Divine King. Qin Feiyang also looked at the hall and sincerely thanked him. No need. The undead of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure are my people. You helped them refine pills and pass the tribulation. I should be the one thanking you." The Divine King of Chaos smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other. This Divine King was indeed not bad, but they didn't know if they would have the chance to see the Divine King's face under that mask. Very soon, all of the dead spirits had entered the Chaos Royal City. There was no confusion at all. Everyone quietly stayed in the city, waiting for the pills and the tribulation. The Chaos Royal City was very satisfied with this. "Then I'll leave it to you." Qin Feiyang looked at the primal Chaos Royal City and clasped his hands. Boom. Accompanied by the shaking of the heavens and earth, the Chaos Royal City rose from the ground and turned into a stream of light that shot towards the exit of the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure. Although the speed was very fast, Qin Feiyang and the others who were standing on the city wall did not feel the slightest bump. "Old Qin, do you think it's possible that we were chased away in advance because we obtained too many nomological miniatures in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure?" Madman suddenly frowned and asked. "Huh." As soon as these words came out, not only Qin Feiyang, but the Blood Ancestor and the others who were about to leave also turned their heads to look at Madman. "Maybe that's possible." Yin Xiang pondered for a while and nodded. "No." But Qin Feiyang suddenly shook his head. "Why not?" Yin Xiang and Madman were suspicious. "If that's the case, the Sky Bell will definitely ask us to hand over the nomological miniatures and then directly expel us." But it didn't do that. So, it should have nothing to do with the nomological miniatures. I quite believe Yin Xiang's guess. It's Little Rabbit and the others who are outside begging the Sky Bell to let us go out in advance, Qin Feiyang said. "That makes sense." Everyone nodded. Madman looked up at the sky and roared, "Sky Bell, can you tell us if the people of the Divine Kingdom came to the Sky Cloud Realm in advance?" Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned and looked up at the sky again. However, the Sky Bell didn't pay attention to them at all. "I thought it was easy to talk to, but it turns out that it's also an old fogey. It's so troublesome to let the Primal Chaos Royal City send us. It's better to let it directly throw us back to the Sky Cloud Realm." Madman pursed his lips. "Enough. It's a favor for others to help us, but it's their duty not to help us. Besides, it's already a great favor to let us leave the Sky Bell Divine Treasure in advance. Now we can only pray that the Sky Cloud Realm will be safe and sound." Qin Feiyang sighed and looked at Xiao Shui and the others. "Let's move, don't waste time." In another place, Feng Tian Demon Theta Wang and the others stood above a giant peak and also looked up at the sky. How could this be? It ended early. Now, there's no news of Qin Feiyang's companions, and they want to leave the Sky Bell Divine Treasure? Bloodthirsty Demon King's body had been reconstructed. Obviously, he had been cultivating in the time array all these years. Black Flame Demon King suddenly roared. "Who cares about his companions now? Hurry back and ask them for the undead barrier breaking pill." "That's right. We haven't gotten the undead barrier breaking pill yet. How can we let them leave like this?" Bloodthirsty Demon King patted his head, his face full of anxiety. The three of them immediately turned around and flew away. Wait. It's possible that the Primal Chaos Royal City is already escorting them to the exit. Quickly contact the Primal Chaos Royal City and ask about the situation. Feng Tian Demon King suddenly stopped and looked at the two of them. Black Flame Demon King and Bloodthirsty Demon King were stunned and immediately let their respective sovereign weapons contact the Primal Chaos Royal City. Soon, they got a reply. They really have already escorted them to the exit. Feng Tian Demon King frowned. Black Flame Demon King glanced around and said, "Don't worry, our current position is closer to the exit than them. Let's rush to the path they must pass and wait for them." Okay. The two nodded. The three of them immediately turned around and disappeared into the horizon like lightning. At the same time, Tan Wu, Fire Qilin, Hell God Hound, Qi Xiaoyan, and Whitebeard also received the news and rushed to the exit under the lead of their respective sovereign weapons. This made them very surprised as well. Originally, They had wanted to find some law miniatures or subdue a few sovereign divine weapons while they were on their way. However, when they learned of Qin Feiyang's guess, they didn't dare to be careless, because they also knew the seriousness of the problem. If the Divine Kingdom really arrived in advance, the Qilin clan without a sovereign weapon would definitely be destroyed. 2 years later, bloodthirsty demon Theta Wang and the others finally waited for the Primal Chaos Divine King. After 2 years, there were only about 2,000 undead left in the Primal Chaos Royal City. The rest had already successfully transcended their tribulations and left the Primal Chaos Royal City. Looking at the remaining 2,000 undead, the 3 Devil Kings frowned. Not only did he personally escort Qin Feiyang and the others out of the Sky Bell Divine Treasury, he also allowed so many undead to enter the city. This Divine King was too good to Qin Feiyang and the others. This time, the 3 of them restrained themselves. Arriving in front of the ancient castle, they silently stood outside the door, waiting for Qin Feiyang. Although Qin Feiyang had made a blood oath to give them the undead barrier-breaking pill before leaving the Sky Bell Divine Treasury, if they didn't guard here, it would seem like they didn't have a sense of security. Finally, Qin Feiyang finished refining the last batch of undead barrier-breaking pills and walked out of the ancient castle. He handed them to Qiao Shui and didn't even look at the 3 Devil Kings. This made the 3 Devil Kings very annoyed. Cough cough. Devil King Black Flame coughed forcefully and could only take the initiative to make his presence known. Qin Feiyang was stunned and turned to look at the 3 of them. This? Qin Feiyang, look. You're about to leave the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. The pills you promised us should be honored. Yes. It was our fault in the past. We were narrow-minded and targeted you repeatedly. Now we apologize to you. I hope you won't take it to heart. The 3 hesitated for a moment and finally put down their attitude and said with a pleading expression. Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 of them silently. To be honest, if it weren't for this sudden change, he would really want to play with the 3 of them. But now he was worried about the safety of the Sky Cloud realm. He really wasn't in the mood. Don't worry. Before leaving the Sky Bell Divine Treasury, I will definitely give it to you. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he entered the ancient castle and went into seclusion to comprehend the law of life and death. There were still 5 or 6 years left. According to the time array in the ancient castle, there were still 10 million years left. In 10 million years, he should be able to comprehend the supreme profoundness of the law of life and death. If it was before, he definitely wouldn't have this confidence, but it was different now. Since listening to the Primal Chaos Divine King's explanation last time, his comprehension of the law of life and death had reached a new level. He didn't dare to speak about the ultimate profoundness, but he had 100% confidence in the supreme profoundness of the law of life and death. Seeing Qin Feiyang enter the ancient castle without looking back, the 3 Devil Kings couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. They had already lowered their posture and spoke humbly, but he still didn't give it to them? Good. Just you wait. Before leaving the Sky Bell Divine Treasury, I will definitely make you suffer a pain worse than death. The 3 of them silently retreated and entered a large hall. Feng Tian Demon King looked at Black Flame Demon King and transmitted his voice. Immediately tell the Devil Castle to contact Sword God and have Long Chen and the others wait at the exit. That's right. Qin Feiyang's companions must be on their way to the exit now. As long as Long Chen and the others wait at the exit, they will definitely be able to see them. Bloodthirsty Demon King nodded with undisguised killing intent in his eyes. Feng Tian Demon King secretly said. Also, tell Long Chen to keep their corpses. I want to let Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist, these 2 little bastards, see their miserable deaths with their own eyes. Okay. Black Flame Demon King nodded and immediately secretly instructed the Devil Castle. If Qin Feiyang knew about this, he would definitely laugh and shake his head. Even now he was still acting like a fool. Directly to the west, one after another, giant peaks towered into the sky, emitting a majestic aura. In this area, there were a total of 10,000 giant peaks. The lowest was tens of thousands of feet tall, like a giant sword that towered into the dark clouds. However, like other places, it was hard to find vegetation and was incomparably desolate. This was the Myriad Peaks Ridge. The The Myriad Peaks Ridge was also named after these 10,000 giant peaks. In the center, there stood a giant peak that was tens of thousands of feet tall. The peak of the mountain was as flat as a knife, and the ground was covered with a layer of black stones. Each stone was full of traces left behind by time. In the center of the mountain peak, there was a black stone door. The stone door was about 100 feet tall, and was completely black, emitting an ancient and cold aura. This was the exit of the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.